Eldon's here. Okay, perfect. Hey, buddy. All right, I'd like to welcome everybody to our Planning Commission this evening on December 1st, 2021. I'm Commissioner Hanson. I'm the current chair of the Planning Commission, at least through the end of this evening, I think. It's always suspect up here. We're going to go ahead and start our meeting with an invocation by Commissioner Musso, and I'll go ahead and lead us after that in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Our Heavenly Father, we humbly bow our heads before you this evening at the beginning of this Planning Commission meeting and give thee thanks for this opportunity we have of living in this wonderful city, for the opportunity we have of living in America and for the freedoms which we have. We're grateful for the opportunity to come together as a community and to work for the good of the community. And we would ask you this evening that would bless all those here this evening, that we might have good civil discord and that we might be able to discuss matters and keep our faculties about us as we discuss important issues. Heavenly Father, at this time we would ask a special blessing upon Brandon Wright's family and his wife and his 3 boys. We'd ask you to please bless and comfort them in this time of loss. We're grateful for all of us who have had the opportunity to know Brandon and for the effect that he had on our lives, and ask you to, once again, please bless his family. And we pray for these things humbly in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Commissioner Musso. At this time, I'll look for an approval of the agenda for this evening, December 1st. If you've had a chance to look over that, Commissioners, are there any changes that need to be made? Otherwise, I'll look for a motion.
This is Shill. I make a move to approve the agenda for tonight's meeting, December 1st.
Commissioner Musso, I second that.
I've got a first and a second on the approval of the agenda. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the agenda is set and approved for tonight. I'll look for, we'll go to item number 2. This is an approval of the minutes for last meeting for November 17th. I was not in attendance. I will not be voting, but if you've had a chance to look over those, or if there's any suggestions or anything to be made with Kathy, please indicate at this time. Otherwise, I'll look for a motion.
This is Commissioner Musso. I make a motion that we approve the minutes for the meeting that was on November 17th.
This is Bullock. I'll second.
I've got a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? This is Hanson, just abstaining. I was not in attendance. We'll move to item number 3. This is a declaration of abstention and conflicts with any of the items on the agenda this evening from any of the commissioners.
No.
I don't have any. All right, doesn't look like we have any this evening. We'll move on to item number 4A. This is a plat amendment. It's also a public hearing for consideration and recommendation to the City Council for the Kendall subdivision final plat. It's amended. It's located approximately 52 South Main Street. The purpose of the amendment is to remove Lot 1B from the subdivision and make Lot 1A and Lot 2 larger, and to extend the subdivision to include parcel W48B1A. The applicant is Kelly Kendall. I'll turn the time over to staff for their report.
Thank you, Commissioners. This is Eldon with Washington City. As stated, the applicant is requesting approval of an amended final plat for the Kendall amended number 2 subdivision located at approximately 52 South and Main Street. Staff has reviewed the proposed amended final plat and finds it conforms to the single-family residential zoning of this development. The subdivision also remains in compliance with the subdivision ordinances of the city. Staff recommends that the Planning Commission recommend approval of the amended final plat for the Kendall amended number 2 subdivision to the City Council based on the following findings and subject to the following conditions as seen in your report. And we're happy to answer any questions at this time.
Thanks, Eldon. Commissioners, I'll open the floor for any initial questions for staff.
Drew, can you bring that up on an aerial, please?
I'll just talk that through real quick. You can see the shared access going back into that flag lot. We're removing that shared access off of lot 2 and gonna make lot A and lot 2 bigger. They'll split that shared access there, if that makes sense.
And Eldon, is it also correct that the boundary line between the upper home and that back lot is being removed in the
It is, yeah, that'll be a big, deep lot there, one single lot. So there'll be 3 lots rather than 4 as it currently sits.
and that's as shown in the exhibit in your packet. There you go. Yep.
Any other initial questions, commissioners, for staff? If not, what I'll do is, this is a public hearing. I'll open this up for any public comment. Anybody who'd like to speak, please come forward to the microphone. And remember to state your name clearly in the microphone as Kathy is recording. We want to make sure we get your name on the record.
I'm Kerry Kendall, and I'm in the corner lot. So I was just wondering, what are the stipulations for approval?
Could you clarify that just a little bit more? What do you mean?
Well,
I'm not understanding.
it just said in all improvements, and I didn't know what that meant.
All right. Oh, the conditions on here.
Yeah.
You want to explain that, Drew? What the
That
conditions may
first
be?
condition
Or-
probably isn't relevant to this because there is no new construction applied for. And so I'd say that first one refers mostly to a new project. Or Drew, is it the city's position that with this replatting that they need to install improvements that don't already exist?
Well, I'm gonna, I get to do the fun part. I'm gonna pass that on to your Public Works representative here, because that's generally conditions for them. You know, technically, there could be, I don't know if they've talked, if you guys have had chance to have a conversation about that, John, or not. You wouldn't require anything at this point? Because generally what we do is we make you put curb, gutter, and sidewalk in on the average person doing a subdivision or replatting, just to let you know that that's a condition, that's a standard one for all those, but it's up to Public Works because there is not going to be any new construction. But, you know, I think if the whole street was going to start getting curb and gutter, then you're going to get hit with that at that time, probably, I'm speaking right. So they'll probably let you off the hook right now, but as soon as 100 gets built out with curb, gutter, and sidewalk, then you'll be responsible for putting it on all 3 lots.
Well,
Does that make sense?
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Drew, it's my understanding, are you the applicant, correct? Did I get that right?
Well, it's my brother
Family.
that's representing my parents' home.
Okay.
And then this is my Curtis, he's lot next to me.
Okay. The applicant, so you're Carrie, is that right? And Kelly is your brother? Okay. I thought I might have misunderstood that. Does the applicant know the conditions on here when they come?
They get a copy of this report. Whoever
okay.
the applicant is gets a copy of it.
All right.
Now, sometimes they don't understand because if you're not in city stuff, you might just, well, I'm not sure what all that means, but
I barely understand. What are you
And this is a situation where the mother and father of all of the siblings have passed on. So there's an estate representative who I think is leading the application, and then just family members that just want to attend the process. And so I'm not aware of much adversity. I don't think the family's got, adversity here. They're just mostly here to attend the public process.
Okay, awesome. Carrie, thanks. Anybody else in the public like to speak to this particular item today? I'm going to go ahead and look for a motion to close the public hearing at this time.
This is Commissioner Bullock. I make a motion to close the public hearing. Second.
Got a first and a second to close the public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the public hearing is closed. Any other questions for the staff or the applicant or anybody else for that matter from the commissioners?
I do have a question. Are they required to block access to that back lot?
that back lot's being eliminated. That's what this is all about. So,
Right, so
right now there's 4 lots, back here where the boat and stuff is. That's why I drew the blue lines. So they're basically eliminating the 4th lot, making 3 lots. So that's why I crossed out this driveway is
What-
gone, and also that white line back here in the red, it's gone. And the blue lines are the new property lines. So they're going from 4 lots to 3 lots.
Okay, let me clarify my question. If they have a gate there that has allowed them to drive through the lots to access the backyard, are they required to block that off?
No.
No, because
Okay.
it's all family anyway. But if you had 3 separate property owners and someone, then we'll get, there's lots of other things that go with gates and going to cost prescriptive easements, but we're not.
Okay.
Yeah,
I
but
just
this
thought
case,
that
we have
maybe
no-
that's where the improvement.
Yeah,
Thank
no,
you.
no, there are no improved. They're just, like I said, they're going from 4 lots where there was the flag lot that's not, they've decided as a family not to have the flag lot. They're just going to break the property up, and everybody will have bigger backyards, at least the 2 lots
Okay, thank
will
you.
end up.
So if this plat had left a 4th corner up there that didn't have legal access, then the city would have an interest in making sure that their plat shows that, because they're essentially eliminating a lot up in that corner, and all 3 of the properties have access from the straight front. The city doesn't have any requirement to get into that backyard. Now, they may privately maintain and keep some form of access back to that back section if they want, but it wouldn't be required of the city.
Good. All right, commissioners, I'll look for a motion at this time.
It's Commissioner Anderson. I'll make a motion to approve the amended final plat for Kendall amended number 2 subdivision located approximately 52 South Main Street with the 2 findings and 5 conditions, and send it to City Council for consideration.
This Shield, I'd second that.
I've got a first by Anderson. I've got a second by Shield. Individual voting, Commissioner Shield,
Aye.
Musso,
Aye.
Anderson.
Aye.
Bullock.
Aye.
I'm Hanson. I'm an aye as well. The motion passes unanimously. We'll send that to City Council with a recommendation for approval.
Commissioner, if I may just express the city's appreciation for the Kendall family, in addition to hosting political signs every year because of their location by the post office. They've been a part of our community for a long time, and we appreciate them.
Awesome. Thank you. This time we'll move to item number 5A. This is also a public hearing to consider approval of a conditional use permit, C-21-15. This is a request for a building that exceeds 5,000 square feet in an administrative and professional zone along 300 East, located at 650 North, 300 East. The applicant is Washington City Leisure Services and the Parks Department. We'll turn this time over to the staff that's going to handle that.
Thank you, Commissioners. The applicant stated his request and approval of a CUP. Any proposed buildings, as stated, they're over 5,000 square feet, and any of our commercial zones require that conditional use permit. The proposed new Parks Department building is roughly 10,360 square feet and is located in an AP zone or administrative professional zoning district. It will be built out of CMU block and will have a metal roof. It will be built in the Parks Department yard, as stated above, and if you're not familiar where that is, it's actually a little off of 300 east at this point, but it's up on that north end right below the freeway. In fact, your last meeting, you approved a conditional use permit on that tower that's in the same yard. So if you want, I'll just bring it up on the screen so you're familiar, and then we'll go back to the plans. So don't get dizzy as I fly you north. So here's the property. Most of you probably know where this is. There's a water tank right here where my arrow is, and then that tower is right here. So the building's going to be located in this area where I'm kind of floating around. And that's the parks yard. It used to be the power department had that, and then they moved out to their new location. Parks took it over several years ago. The new building and structure will be required to meet the standards as outlined by city-adopted building and fire codes. Staff feels that if those can be met, then the request can be granted for the proposed new public building in this particular project at this location. Let's go back and I'll kind of get, this is again kind of the layout, and this is that area I showed you. It's over in that area. There's the water tank, and then the tower, the cell tower's up here. So here's the floor plan and the parking area. I'm glad they're adding a lot of parking will be going in with this building. This is just kind of it placed over the aerial, as you can see, ghost out below. Again, here's the project with around this green belted area. And then here's your building of the CMU block. It'll basically be, if you've been down to our public works yard and saw the brown buildings, and then they have a strip of split face that's up. That's what that darker, strand is some split face block. That'll be the brown as well, and then the metal roof on top of that. These are the end views of the building. And then the back view that's along the property line back there. So floor plan shows a big open area for them to park a lot of their items in. A lot of their stuff is out in the open right now. And they want to get it inside. This is also going to allow them to have some offices. I think the sexton will have an office there. If you don't know who that is, it's the guy that takes care of the cemetery. I learned that a few years ago. What's a sexton? Well, he's the guy that takes care of your cemetery. And so they're going to have a nice office for him to meet with people, to talk about where, plots and stuff are, and he can bring them in and show that. And then there'll be other offices for some of the supervisors that are in the Parks Department to have places to sit down and take care of their book work and things like that. There'll be some storage areas above on each end. And that's why you see the stairs in there. They'll have a big break room. And again, just a place to give the parks guys a little more covered area just for their employees and for their equipments. So with that said, staff would therefore like to recommend that the Planning Commission approve C-21-15, allowing for the new Parks Department building to be built at approximately that 650 North, 300 East, based on the findings and subject to the conditions in your report. And I'll be glad to answer any questions that the commissioners might have on this proposed project for the Parks Department.
Thanks, Drew. Commissioners, any questions for staff at this time?
See if there's anybody that wants to make comments.
While you're mulling those over, I'm going to open this up. This is a public hearing. So we'll open this up for public comment at this time. If anybody would like to speak on this particular issue, they can come up to the microphone and please state their name clearly for the record.
I'm Patty Tippett. I live on Uri Circle, or Uri Drive. And my backyard is adjacent to what you're doing there. So my concern is actually in what is the transition going to be between the parking lot area and where my home is. So my home is, if you wiggle your mouse around, I'll just point it out to you. It's a little bit farther to my left.
What's
other
your
side,
address,
Drew.
ma'am?
It's Uri,
Right
yep, so
there.
almost right there, a little bit, the smaller one just south of that. Yep, that's my house there. So I'm just kind of concerned about what the transition will be between the parking lot and the building and where my home is. I used to have a nice view of Zion Mountains from my house, but they've brought in a lot of dirt recently to kind of level that out, I suppose, and now I just have kind of a dirt hill there. So I'm concerned about all of that dirt just kind of being stacked up above my house. My house is quite a bit lower than, sorry, than that building there. I just, I don't know if they're going to put a cement wall there or a block wall. My daughter owns a house down in St. George where the college just put in their tennis courts. I don't know if you're familiar with that. And they came in and said, we're going to put an 8-foot wall up to hold. Well, she has more like a 25-foot wall behind her house. She can't even see past the wall. So that's kind of what I'm concerned about. There's already a 20-foot wall of dirt there. Is something going to go on top of that? Is there going to be something just to hold it back? So that's my question.
Thanks.
And I'm going to invite, I saw Barry is online. Again, this would have been Brandon, so I hope Barry can answer, but
Yeah, this is Barry. I can't answer that. There are no plans for a wall there. Any dirt that's there right now, after the pad is prepared, we would slope and gradually take that down into the area that's there. But there's no plan for a wall there. No.
So Barry, this is Commissioner Musso. So how big of a distance is that? I mean, is it a considerable slope, like 10 or 12 feet, or is it, because, don't we
You've got a big.
have to retain whatever dirt's on our property?
Yeah, we would, but there's really not. I mean, it's not. You'd have to go, see it. We could do. I don't know what the slope would be on that. We could work. We could work out whatever needed to be done. But like I said, there's no plans right now for a wall there. We don't intend doing a wall there to block anything. Certainly, the building's going to be set back, so it wouldn't ruin a view right there right now. But it'd be no higher than it is right now, Commissioner.
This is Commissioner Anderson. I guess to the same question though, do we know what the elevation change is? I mean, is it enough that it's a hillside ordinance issue, or is it just a little teeny rolling hill?
you don't throw hillsides in because you create a slope. It's based on a
Yeah, I just
area-
wondering what the elevation
area that's
change difference
designated.
is.
So I don't know. I've not been with that. I'm not sure what the.
It's certainly not 20 feet. I'm not sure what it is. It's not. I mean, I'm not sure what the height of that is, but certainly whatever you guys wanted to require us to do, or whatever we need to do, that we wouldn't have a problem doing that.
So the way the topography there is most of those houses that you see cut into the slope as part of their development, and then the city's piece is kind of on top of that little hill that they cut into. Is little hill, meaning, I mean, I know that there's, out of Patty's backyard, there's a climb up there. There is a slope, but mostly the houses and yards cut into and work up the slope, and then the city's parcel has always been on top of it.
This is Commissioner Anderson. I guess to her question, I don't think it's going to necessarily change the view much, because most of what you're going to see is parking lot.
Right now, I just.
Yeah, and if you look here, you got parking lot behind it.
Yeah.
Yeah. My concern though is how high is it? Is it a stormwater runoff issue, which I guess would be the same then as now. It's just.
So the historical problem up there has been water runoff from that tank. You see that tank has been a challenge for the city and the neighbors. If you can scroll to the other image there, Drew, that shows the tank right there. So that tank's had had runoff over the years that's created problems for the residents. I don't think storm runoff, other than when there's just storms that have water running everywhere, I don't think stormwater runoff has been a problem. Has it, Patty? Yeah. That's from the tank, yeah. So the Gardner house is the house directly south of the tank there, you'll see, and yeah, that house sits at a location where when water runs off, it affects their yard and their house, and anyway, you'll see that there's a plan to detain water. But yeah, as far as the slope, in theory, a serious storm's going to hit the slope just like it hits everything else. But the runoff doesn't come off from the storms. Usually, it comes off at the Gardner location, and it's usually the bigger problems have been related to city water coming off, not necessarily stormwater.
And just to clarify, also, we just redid that tank. And did the repairs that need to be done on that. And also in this project, we have a proposed, which will happen, a detention as part of this project that will take care of any problems in the future with that water.
This is Commissioner Hanson. Drew, while there is not a proposal for a fence at this time, if they ever wanted to put a fence in, would they have to come back to us, or is that something that they could do at any time?
They could do it any time because we don't allow fences technically unless they went over the height limit, which is 6 feet. Then they need a conditional use, but that you can put a fence in. But in this case, the fence would be at the top of the hill, and all it's going to do is cause more obstruction than anything.
I believe, isn't there an existing fence? Doesn't the city have an existing chain link fence? Yeah, there's a fence that's been in for.
Yes.
Yeah, but it does, the perimeter of the property is fenced.
It's down here then.
Yeah, it's lower.
Yeah, and then it's gated at the access point. The city tries to control access in there because of what they're doing up there.
And chain links are really known for site obscurity. Just want to put my 2 cents in. Yeah, when it's at the bottom of the hill, so.
Yeah. This is still part of the public comment section. If there's anybody else who would like to come up and speak to this item, please do so. Please remember to state your name for the record. Thank you.
Lee Tippett. I live in the same place, 632 North Erie East Drive. And Roger and Anita Gardner have had problems with that runoff. There, I don't think it has happened lately, but they have 2 serious floods. One, they had to replace the whole floor in the house. They've done some wall work and some cement work, which might make a difference now, but mainly they've been bothered by it, and we have been bothered by the runoff a little, but not a great deal. But what I'm concerned with is now you have 20 some odd percent of asphalt already existing, and then you're going to have another 20% existing, and you have 40% of that covered with asphalt. Where is that water going to go? I can't see that pond actually being that useful in a big downpour like we can get occasionally.
Yeah, it will be engineered for that, to handle that. Absolutely.
So the asphalted area will be engineered and built to drain into that pond.
Yes.
And that's it. It just drains, and then just evaporates out? Or does it somewhere have somewhere to go?
Barry, is it going to have a drain out of the pond, or there's a retention and a detention? I'm trying to remember which one drains.
Detention drains.
So the detention will have some drain element
Has some
to
drain.
it.
Okay. All right. I'm surprised Roger's not here today, but anyway, that's the concerns that have been in the past, and this could involve us more with the asphalt being over further right directly behind our house now.
So if this was a proposal from a private applicant, the city would require the same control of the stormwaters like they're planning to do.
The only
so
thing
there.
that's held it back is a berm so far.
Yeah.
And then when that breaks, that's when it went down to Roger's place.
Yeah, so the asphalt always makes the stormwater move more quickly, but that parcel's never had a detention pond element like this one will add, and so it'll, of course, increase the nature of the water runoff as far as the speed, but it'll add a collection element, and the asphalt will be designed to deliver it to that location.
Will it be possible to see the roof or the second story from our house?
I don't know.
I don't either. What are you, 28 feet high? Something like that. That's something I'm concerned with as well. Thanks.
Did the application have an elevation height for the building?
It's right there, my pencil. He actually,
27.
he's seen it's 28 feet tall.
28 feet.
Yeah. I know that one plan says 7, but I always tell them to add a foot on top of that, so.
So this is Commissioner Anderson. So since we just had a training last time on this, I'm going to ask some of the questions that you told us to ask that.
Sure.
So it's obvious, how it would conform to the intent of the general plan and that it meets the, regulations and so forth. And I can see how it doesn't cause any harm. But my question would be, number one, because I'm assuming one form or another of taxpayer dollars are paying for this, either whether it's impact fees or taxpayer dollars. So, how is the new building, necessary and desirable to provide a service that will contribute to the general well-being of the neighborhood and community?
Well, that's an easy answer, I think. It's going to keep your equipment out of the weather. It's going to keep it locked and in a secure place. And it gives your staff a place to put the things in the meat and take care of all their stuff indoors instead of sitting on the back of a bed of a pickup truck.
This is Barry again. Also, Commissioner, there's going to be that frontage road that comes up along the freeway there, and that goes right through the middle of our existing shop. So that shop will be gone, and this is one of the reasons why that shop is happening, because we will have to vacate that shop that's going to be there, and we want to take care of that ahead of time, so that when that road goes through, that frontage road goes through, we're already done.
And so you can see in that red area that it's called Merritt Way right now, but master plan road for the city. This is a frontage road up here, this red area.
So currently the road is gated about where Drew's red lines end, a little bit farther up, but in that general area, there's a gate, and 300 East essentially ends at that location. And the future traffic plan is for a 300 East to connect to the exit 13 interchange via frontage road.
And you can see they've got a building right here where my pencil's circling around. That'll be gone.
And so also, Commissioner Anderson, to your question, the interesting thing with this conditional use permit application is the use is already happening there, but the building doesn't yet exist. And so this building would incorporate the current use, but with a structure that, again, is required to come before the commission.
So really the biggest thing is replacing a building that are losing and increasing the longevity of equipment. The idea being saving future maintenance costs.
And,
right?
and putting a lot of the use that's currently just open air use inside a building structure. Yeah.
How is this being funded? Is this?
So taxpayer dollars is a little bit, I don't want to say deceiving, but this is public money. The Parks Department has budgeted for this, and they're using their budget to build it.
From general plan or from
Well, the general fund isn't parks money. So there's probably impact fees that are being used on this, depending on how that's been planned. Barry, can you talk to you?
Yep, I can. This is impact fees. By law, we have to. You can't use impact fees for. You have to be. It's for something new. It's for something that impacts the park system because of people moving in. We actually are growing so much. There'll be the cemetery crew there. There'll be the parks crew there, and also the maintenance and custodial crew there. That's why we have the offices and the bays for those areas and all their equipment, all the supplies. So with the growth that we're experiencing, which has been huge, we're not only losing our building, but we need an increased size building. And so that qualifies for the impact fees. So those people that are moving in, that we have to build and add more parks and maintenance and all that things for that's who pays it. It's the impact fees, yes.
And those are impact fees, Commissioner, that will have been collected over the years ever since the Parks Capital Facilities Plan has been adopted and identified this building as a future capital expense. And so we prepare the plans, we impose the fee, collect them, and once they accumulate, usually is when the project comes along.
We're still open for public comment. Is there anybody else that would like to speak at this time? What I'll do is look for a motion to close the public comment at this time, Commissioners.
This is Commissioner Bullock. I make a motion to close the public hearing.
This is Musso, I second.
Got a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the public comment section is closed. I'll open it up again, Commissioners, for any questions you have for staff or comments.
So this is Shill, is there any other landscaping requirement or beautification going to happen?
Well, all of our landscaping requirements are based on street frontage. And so this really doesn't have any street frontage where this particular part of the lot is.
I can't answer that. This is
Barry, go ahead.
Barry Blake again. We do have landscaping in front. This is going to be a public building where it's been mentioned. We'll have a parks office there. We'll also have the cemetery office there. So those that need to come make arrangement for funerals, for burials, for plots, we have a lobby there. So certainly we're going to make this front of the building look nice, landscaped, and aesthetically pleasing for those that come in. So yes, even though there's not a requirement for that, we are going to do that, landscaping in front.
That would help it. Pretty blah right now.
Thanks, Barry, for being on the phone. Commissioners, I'll look for a motion at this time on item 5A.
This is Commissioner Musso. I make a motion that we approve the conditional use permit C-21-14 for the new public building, which is over 5,000 square feet in size, located at approximately 600 north and 300 east, with the findings and conditions as outlined by staff.
This is Commissioner Bullock. I'll second.
I've got a first by Commissioner Musso. I've got a second by Commissioner Bullock. Individual voting, Commissioner Shield.
Aye.
Musso.
Aye.
Anderson.
Aye.
Bullock.
Aye.
I'm Hanson. I'm an aye as well. The motion passes on item 5A. We'll move to item number 6B. This is an item that was tabled on November 17th. This is also, actually, let me clarify this. Drew, is this a continued public hearing where we have that, we open it up again and everything?
Well, you can make it such, really, you can only continue a public hearing if more, different information has been brought up that people didn't have a chance to comment on before.
Okay.
Is generally how that works, but it's your call. You as a group can collectively say you want to do it, but I always recommend that you do, just to give anybody that might have been there. So,
Is there anybody here in the chamber that wanted to make a public comment on this when we open it up? Okay, perfect. So this is, again, item number 5B, tabled from November 17th. It's a public hearing that we'll open up in a minute. To consider approval of a conditional use permit, C-21-14, a request to hold events and meetings in a commercial building located approximately 568 West Telegraph, number 4. The applicant is Ed Tracy. I'll turn the time over to staff for their report.
so I'm going to go back and find your exhibits on that, just so we have it on the screen. Well, I'm trying to, Kathy, you need to help me out here. Where did those go?
Do you want this?
No, I got my report. I'm just trying to bring up the location on. I could just go to. Well, I did. I went back to the previous meeting. It's not in there. They're supposed to be right here. Oh, wait, they were attached right here. Okay, we're good.
All right.
Okay, thank you. This item was tabled as stated November 17th, with the commissioners asking for more information to be provided as it relates to the two restaurants and their seating and parking needs. Also was asked if the occupancy load could be found for the 2,000 square foot of open space within the Unit 4, which is the unit in question, this particular one here, and we wanted to know about this floor area and what the occupant load would be in it for the special events. So with that said, in your report, the seating was found for the Royal Thai restaurant. They have 1,100 square feet in size and has 85 seats, which require 21 parking stalls. The seating for the Flavor of Soul restaurant is 600 square feet in size and has 23 seats, and that would require 6 parking stalls. The occupant load on the 2,000 square feet of open space in Unit 4 would be 67 persons, according to the fire codes. There are, as we stated in the previous meeting, 85 parking stalls within the development. So when you take the 21, because again, we're just talking at nighttime of that cross use, 21 and the 6 for a total of 27 off of the 85, I think left, what is that, 40, 50, 55, 57, I think, 57 stalls, right? Yeah, it's 50. 57 would be available for the event, the special events.
Drew, on your calculation for the Unit 4, you said that the occupancy would be 67, I think, seats is probably the equivalent metric. How many stalls would that equate to? It seems like based on the math for the others, it would be much less than 58 stalls, wouldn't it?
Well, that's just because that's restaurants and how there's a matrix out for that. This, I can't equate, unfortunately, because the use is different than restaurant. So I don't want to probably
So how would
attach
you,
that to anything. We're just saying that the occupancy would be 67. So you could imagine, let's just say, for the most case, 2 people come in one car on the average. So that would be 30, what would that end up being? Basically 33
34 to round
stalls.
up, yeah.
If more people came, great. If everybody came in a single car, you would be short, but I doubt that's going to happen. Your worst case scenario would be all 67 came in their own car. You'd need 67. We have 58. So that's what you just have to, as a commission, look at and see if you're comfortable with that.
Seems like this is Commissioner Tupou. Seems like the calculation for Royal Thai and Flavor of Soul is about 4 seats for every parking space. So if we applied that to this new space at 67, that's about 17 stalls. And there's 58 left after the 27 is taken out of the 85 parking stalls.
But again, that's basing on restaurant numbers. We have, regular retail says I need 1 parking stall for 250 square feet in a clothing store or something like that. So, that's why I'm trying to stay out of using that, because there isn't a matrix for special events, because we don't know what will happen in that 2,000 square feet on a given night. So, but I think you just have to feel comfortable. Is 58 stalls are good for a 2,000 square foot area for a special event, and it probably is sufficient then.
This is Commissioner Anderson. So again, you're saying in here that they would only be allowed to have special events when the restaurants are closed?
In essence, that's what we're talking about,
that's what we're
because
talking about.
if we try to go during the regular
Right,
part
that's
of the
be
day,
crowded.
and I have the pharmacy and I have the other, the Allstate guy and his needs and uses. We're just doing because we're talking about at night for shared parking, because that's the only way we could really, consider doing special events as if it's after kind of regular hours.
So we're talking after 8:30 because Royal Thai closed at 8:30.
Well, no, we're talking anytime after 5. I think most of the other stores are going to close between 5 and 6. Regular business hours. Like the pharmacy doesn't stay open late. This one doesn't. And I know the insurance guy doesn't probably stay past 5 o'clock, et cetera. So we're talking, that's why we picked the 2 restaurants, because we know they will be open in the evenings.
This is Commissioner Bullock. Aren't they wanting to hold like luncheon events at this facility too? So
Well, they might be able to, but they're going to have to limit how many people they bring to their luncheon, because they,
because of the
just because
okay,
they have
yeah,
neighbors.
Okay. So
So they're going to have to work those out. If they want to do a daytime thing, they can come and, see what's normally left for this. This is the biggest unit in the complex, there's no doubt. So they would be awarded X amount of it anyway, based on square footage.
no, I was fine with that. Like I wanted to know what.
Yeah, because on a
parking
business
stalls were left.
sense, I would probably put this around, at 4,000 square feet, they would be required to have 16 stalls anyway. So if they could have a luncheon event that didn't use more than 16 stalls, they're only inviting so many people, then they're fine to do that in the middle of the day. They just have to keep in mind not to have a bunch of events that aren't related to,
Right.
The Chamber of Commerce, whatever it is, but having these other things during those times of day when the other people, need their stalls as well. So.
Just Commissioner Anderson, so again, what I'm concerned of is if we're saying they need to do it when the other businesses are not open, are we drawing a line somewhere, or is it just sort of a fuzzy line? Because each business has a different closing. I mean, like the nail place closes at 7, the pharmacy closes at 6, Flavor of Soul closes at 8, and Royal Thai closes at 8:30. So where is our line that we're saying here?
You can make that part of your condition, I think, because again, we're asking for something above and beyond, what would fit in this area, and that's what they're asking for. So that's why we call them conditional use permits, because you can put a condition on there, and if they're all fine with it.
Right now, when just the 2 restaurants, when they're open, fill most of that parking, with the exception of the parking on the backside of the building that nobody uses. I mean,
Which
there's
is
20.
should be all the employees. Should
Yeah,
be
there's
parking
20 on the
back there.
backside, but nobody that's going there is really using it. It's going to be employees.
This is Sheil. Can we ask how long a term the lease is for?
Yeah, you can ask. I don't think that's inappropriate. So.
Nothing's inappropriate. So we are actually subletting, Ed Tracy, sorry.
There we go. Thanks, Ed.
So we are subletting from the doctors that were in there, from Mr. Hooper, who owns the property. Their lease is up December of next year. The intent is, of course, after speaking with Mr. and Mrs. Hooper, to sign a new lease once that's over and stay there until I'm old and gray.
So you have
older and grayer.
You have a 1-year term right now.
Correct. And we have met with all of the tenants in there. We've to make sure that they understand we're not there to take any of the spaces. We're working with them. They're excited for us to be there. Our current luncheons now never go over 40 people, and we have plenty of room for that. So we're not talking big crowds.
I think we had another comment, didn't we?
For him?
No.
Ed, if you don't mind staying up close here in case we have some additional comments for you.
Yeah.
Don't mind. Sure. Drew, is that all for the staff report?
Yeah, because you had everything, 2 weeks ago that you kind of had with that. So that was the things that the reason we tabled, we only give what we have, so staff just wrote still, the recommendation would be if the planning commission feels comfortable with what's been provided, that staff's fine with the proposal.
Okay. At this time, what I'm going to do is open it up to a public, this is a public hearing, so I'll open that for public comment. There was somebody that did want to make a comment, so please come ahead to the microphone and state your name for the record if you'd still like to come up and make that comment. Good? Talked you out of it? All right. It's not that bad, really. Okay. Anybody else would like to make a public comment? I'll look for a motion, commissioners, at this time to close the public comment.
This Shield, I make a motion to close this public comment.
Commissioner Musso, I second.
I've got a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, the public comment is closed. Commissioners, any other comments that you have for either Mr. Tracy or the staff on this item?
This is Commissioner Anderson. So, I mean, assuming if we do luncheons, and assuming that the restaurants have used their 21 and 6 parking spots, then you got 19 left. Let me say 85 minus 6 minus, sorry, 58 left. Which, if you only have 40 people, that's, even if one person drives himself, that's plenty. But we wouldn't want to have gigantic parties or things like that.
My only question, and I missed the comment, or I missed the meeting last time where this was initially presented, and I asked Commissioner Shield if this was something that you guys discussed or staff of in the past. If I remember correctly, we've limited the conditional use permit for a period of time on certain things to see how it went, type of thing, like on some of the daycare that we had on, I can't remember the neighborhood now, but is that something that's even worth considering or talking about in this case, based on what happened last meeting and this meeting?
Well, due to your circumstances, you could consider that because, and again, knowing that he has his year lease, et cetera, is not a bad thing to consider just to see kind of how it goes. Now, like I say, because what I would recommend anyway is you put a condition in, and if for some reason it becomes problematic all the time, then, of course, we need to have something in there that says they're not meeting, they're causing a disturbance. We need to, probably pull that conditional use permit for that particular use like that. Because you always have that option to do that. If it's causing a disturbance, especially if it's, hurting people financially, the other businesses, if it's dangerous because of too many cars, can't get in and out for emergency services, et cetera, you can, always come back and bring it forth to have a revocation of a conditional use permit or at least particular benefits of one that you could, revoke at a later date. But I like the idea of maybe considering that he's under contract for 1 year and revisit it and see how it's going. If we have any complaints or any problems, to revisit at that time.
This is Commissioner Musso. My only, not concern, but my only caveat would be then is if we do not have any complaints or problems, that we just let the conditional use, excuse me, continue, as opposed to having Ed come back in here and go through the hoops that we've just made him jump through twice in the last 2 weeks.
So one of the unique elements, though, is conditional uses run with the land. And because this is a building that existed before the application and will exist, I know Ed mentioned becoming older and grayer, but in theory, it'll exist whenever things go where they end up, right? You may actually want to consider a condition that doesn't necessarily attach us with the land indefinitely because it's unique to what's already been built and approved there.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering, if we could attach it to Mr. Tracy's, as long as it's under his control.
Yeah, as long as he's got a valid lease for the premises or something of that nature.
That's why we keep it, as long as Chamber of Commerce, is that who's applying?
We'll have an office there, yes.
Or whoever's applying for it. But yeah, I would assume do it that way so that we don't, because it's already been 3 other things.
Yeah, it's had a number of commercial uses there, and those,
Have
of
to have a
course,
conditional use permit.
no, because so this is not a permitted use within that zoning. The other uses, I believe, have all been permitted within the zone, so they haven't needed a conditional use permit. And so this is here conditionally because it's allowed on the condition that it's approved by the commission beforehand. And so, yeah, if we were going to do a conditional use for like the city's building that you considered previously, the exact same process regardless of who the applicant is, that approval runs with the land and will remain with the land until it's revoked or the city has to change how they do it. And so that's the legal theory of conditional use approvals. The only unique thing here is it's a building that already existed and an applicant that doesn't own it, right? And so you may choose to provide some some parameter to it because of that.
When it was the beauty school, my understanding was there were far more than 40 people at a time in there because it was a school, you know, and so the difference here is people having lunch versus people getting their hair colored.
Kathy, that was Mr. Tracy again. Commissioners, it seems like we're in some kind of an agreement to attach something here to protect us from that. So we just need to work that into a motion, I think.
This is Commissioner Anderson. I also think that we put something in there saying, I mean, like if he says he has a maximum of 40, maybe we bump that a little bit. We say, you know, during business hours, these other people, we limit it to events of 50 people, and no limit after 8:30 when the other businesses are closed. Yeah, well, meeting fire code, obviously. I'm just saying we don't have a special restriction other than the code after 8:30, but before that, we say maximum of 50 people at an event. That's 10 more than he typically has. And that would keep us, or we could say the full 58 and just say, you know, 58 people is the max until he hit 8:30. After 8:30, he can have what's allowed by code, which is 67, right?
And then if you're considering another parameter as far as like the applicant, and I think that the appropriate metric is just as long as the applicant has a right to be a tenant at that location, right? You'd say that would be the time frame.
Who wants to take a stab at that motion?
And what that does is it makes this condition unique to this tenant, not to this building.
Mr. Commissioner Anderson, I'll make a motion to approve C-21-13, a request for conditional use permit for the expansion and revision of the current existing building on a commercially zoned property located at 568 West Telegraph. The applicant is Ed Tracy, and the owner is Shops at Telegraph Square 2, LC. Given the 4 findings and the 4 conditions by staff, also adding a condition that this conditional use permit will run as long as the current tenant has a valid lease.
As long as
for
the
this
applicant.
As long as the applicant has a valid lease.
Correct.
On the premises. Also that before the hours of 8:30 that events be limited to 58 people. And send this, actually that's it, isn't it? Okay.
This is Commissioner Bullock. I'll second.
Okay, I've got a motion, nice job, by the way, by Commissioner Anderson, and a second by Commissioner Bullock. Individual voting, Commissioner Shield.
Aye.
Musso.
Aye.
Anderson.
Aye.
Bullock.
Aye.
I'm Hanson. I'm an aye as well. The item number 5B passes unanimously. Thanks, Ed. There was a comment that came up in a meeting a couple of months ago, and I wanted to address it again with so many people here. Commissioner Tupou is newer to the commission, and she's, I don't want to say an alternate, that's not the right word. What is the word?
No, it is the right word.
It is alternate?
Yep.
And somebody said, how come she never votes? And I was like, oh, maybe we should say that every now and then. But when we have a full commission, her vote is not needed. And when one of us is absent, we'll ask her to vote in our favor or in our place. Usually in our favor. So in case anybody wondered why we were ignoring her vote down there, we're really not. She's awesome. She can take my chair anytime she wants it. Yes, you can still comment and participate. She can still comment and participate in everything just the same. We'll move to item number 6A. This is a zone change. It's a public hearing as well for consideration and recommendation to the City Council. A zone change request Z-21-26, PUD-C, that's a planned unit development commercial, for the design and use located at Washington Fields Road and 2000 South. The applicant is Darren Snow, and I'll turn the time over to staff for their report.
Thank you. As stated, applicant is requesting approval of the design and use for the currently zoned plan unit development commercial zone property. The size of the property is 3.46 acres. The property is located, as stated, at the corner of Washington Fields Road and 2000 South, or Sandia Road. The name of this particular portion of the master developed area is known as Heritage Place Commercial. The property was granted a PUD zoning at an earlier date, roughly a year and a half ago, with the entire Heritage Place development, with the townhomes and et cetera. And the applicant, knowing then at that time that whatever they planned on putting on the PUD commercial portion, which is this corner, would have to come back showing what they would be doing and how they would be using it. The applicant's now wishing to at least bring a portion of that before you. The PUD commercial requires an approved site design before property can be used. The applicant is proposing to break the 3.46 acres into 3 phases of development, starting with phase 1 proposal, which is before you tonight, with a 4-bay manual car wash with 2-bay vacuum station as well. And that's what you see on the screen before you is that in this particular corner of the property is the bays, and then the vacuum bay over here in that corner of the property. A future, and this is what I wanted to make clear, is what was sent out, and this because that's what we had at the time. I just got this exhibit in, but we'll show, this is what the notices showed and what the commissioners actually got in their original packet, just so everybody kind of knows what we're talking about. But I didn't want these things as part of their exhibits that go forward, because these say future, and I don't want to feel like there's any kind of approval for these in any way, because that's really not what we're talking about or discussing. This is just what they kind of put in the exhibit, and I had those removed back to what you just saw, because again, this is what is the proposal for tonight only. And so they do plan on maybe a three unit commercial development, but also a possible gas station C-store. But again, that's in different phases. We're not voting on that or discussing that on tonight. Again, those would have to come back just like this at a future meeting and have their own public hearings, etc. So staff has concerns with the proposed use and location of this particular project. It would be more appropriate to have the phases reversed, with the convenience store first, followed by the 3-unit plaza, and then possible manual car wash at this location. And staff, if they are desirous of this, staff would rather have the 4-bay car wash to the north behind everything off the street, but that's just, again, staff's concerns with this proposal and not out on the street frontage having the car wash. Staff agreed not to recommend denial, but to put this forth as a no recommendation. Just with that said, the proposed car wash layout, associated ingress, egress, landscape and design, etc., meet standards as would be associated with commercial uses within the city, like in a standard C2, C3 zone maybe. So they do meet those items. The 2-car bay vacuum station, though, would have to be moved to the north because it falls within the setback area. So with that said, staff has no recommendation for the Planning Commission on the review of 2113, Z21, -13 for this specific site design use to the already zoned plan unit development commercial zone piece, and this is on to the City Council. If the Commission wishes to move this item forward with a recommendation of approval, I did give you some findings and some conditions, but that's just so you see them in your report as well. But with that said, I'll be glad to answer any questions that you have. I will let me go back at least to these exhibits and get down to the elevations of this and the materials that they would be using, just so this is on the screen and made part of the record as well. That's kind of the bays that you would be looking at them from the west view. Then there's just the floor layout of the walls and the drive-throughs. Here's all the elevations. Again, they look the same on north and south and on east and west, just because of the design of the car wash and the way it's used. So, so that's what's before you tonight is the car wash. And that's all that's before you tonight is the car wash. And I'll be glad to answer any questions that you have relating to this proposed approval for use and site layout.
Thanks, Drew. Commissioners, I'll open the floor for any questions you have. This is Commissioner Hanson. I have one, Drew, just to educate myself. On the aerial or the top view, the part that backs up to Washington, or that fronts Washington Fields Road, I mean, I feel stupid for asking this, but I really want to know. The sidewalk goes into the street. That can't be right. Why do we get something like that? Am I missing something? I mean, I can't imagine the sidewalk goes out in the street like that. Up at the top, there's like a round knuckle. If you go
Where are
right
you
there,
looking
the
at?
peanut-looking thing or whatever you want, where the entrance is.
Over here?
Yep. Yeah.
That's
It
yeah. So
seems- it seems to me that sidewalk goes out further than it
the
should.
sidewalk is the white, the more white area.
Right.
And then what you're seeing out there is a deceleration lane coming around this corner that they'll be putting in.
Okay. So that's right. It just looks wrong when I'm looking at it, but that's me. It's
Yeah, because
user error.
the more, I'll try to zoom in. I might be as close as I can. Nope, it will let me come in more.
Well,
If that's the deceleration lane.
Yeah, the white,
that cuts it off.
those are just lines of property lines that are overlapping. The sidewalk is this white. See where my little cursor is? That area right through here?
Yeah.
That's the sidewalk.
Yeah. And if,
I think the existing road is out here on this lane where my cursor is right now.
where it bends, if you go up to the top where the bend is,
You can see right now, see these lines right here? That's the curbing and everything that is there right now, where you see my cursor is. All this is new. All this stuff over here, Commissioner. All this, if you watch my cursor from there to here, is all new.
that looks to me like it's in the road. So
That's curb and gutter.
the acceleration lane will start right after this.
Yes, but again, that's curb and gutter, the ones that you were pointing to, and then the wider area is the sidewalk. But these two closer lines, that's curb and gutter, where my cursor is right now.
The car will come this way, start to decelerate here.
Yes.
Just seemed like it was way too close to that. If you guys understand it better than I do, that's good.
Well, we're also limited because of property, et cetera, there. We're pushing this entrance, as far to the north as we can before it hits the townhome project, and to keep it off of the corner to allow stacking. So sometimes we have to do the best with what we've got.
so
And
is there a deceleration lane prior to that?
it's right in, right out. There is going to be another deceleration lane as part of, but it's way north.
Right.
Not like I shouldn't say way north, but there's a road that goes into the townhome project, on the other part of the PUD residential. There's a deceleration lane, on the north end of it. And I can't remember if there's a acceleration lane. John, is there? I can't remember. There's not. We talked about it, but it never did happen.
All right.
So does that help
You guys
you?
know what you're doing. It just, for me, I was like,
No, the sidewalk's right on that curb and gutter at this stage,
yeah.
Just don't walk on it.
Yeah. Okay. That's the only question I had.
But we have to put it somewhere so people, so, the accessibility laws, so that's what those depressions are, those, for the wheelchairs and stuff to get in. We're trying to put those in the best place to, as they're traveling down the sidewalk from the north heading south. Or else, you could put it back and do stuff, but sometimes that's the flattest land for a wheelchair to get onto, or accessibility with people. Even mothers with strollers, et cetera. We try to make it as convenient and not have curbs in the way. So that's why it's pushed out there.
All
Just-
right.
Where's the existing line on Sandia for the road?
What's that question?
Where's the existing line on this
We just-
on Sandia or 2000 South?
You can see these dotted dash lines right here. That's existing right now. You see my cursor there, Commissioner Musso?
Yeah, you can ask.
That's the curb and gutter. Of course I can.
what I think this problem is. So right here, so this is where the existing road is, right? There's the
Yes.
existing curb and gutter. There's our existing road coming here. Right, so in that instance, this will be fine, except I think the problem is now this line here, where our road is up here, if we've now widened the road, but not so much, can you go up a little bit? There we go. We've now widened the road to where the new curb and gutter is here, rather than out here. But it's not wide enough to where we actually have a lane here. It just sort of widens the road. So people are now gonna be coming down the new lane here, and then like Commissioner Hanson's saying, is all of a sudden, this is jutting out in the road, and they've suddenly gotta go back over here, and then back,
It should
if you
line up
widen-
with
if you
that other
widen
one.
this half a lane, and then you got this jutting in, it really can cause traffic issues. I think you either need to keep the lanes here, and this becomes an additional right-in road, or slide this over so it's out of the way.
Okay, now I'm glad you said all that. The
That's what
biggest
I meant.
problem is that none of that probably got on the recorded record because we were standing. We all heard it, but I just, yeah. Look, the road will be designed to engineer standards on, again, there's not going to be, you're going along, all of a sudden you have to, I mean, it's not going to look like, even though it appears to be whatever you're seeing here, but because we've got existing lines, new proposed lines, there's lots of stuff going on here, and it's going to flow the way it needs. It'll be engineered because you can't have special jut outs in it.
Okay.
So don't be worried about that popping out that way. It'll all flow like the way the road's supposed to, and then the deceleration lane will be added into the property as you get to the intersection. So just so you're all aware, we're not, even though that may appear to look like what it is, but it's.
Okay, so now my question, I'm sorry, this is Musso. My question is on Sandia. So down where the entrance to this thing is. So is that right across the street from going into Staley subdivision, Staley Hill subdivision?
Yes.
Is that going to be no, is that going to be a one-way in and out on that one also?
It's going to be I think that's a full access. Right in, left
And
out.
so how wide is that road going to be? Where's the road now? How wide is it going to be from their curb and gutter over to where the road is now?
How
And
wide is 2000 south?
it sucks is what it,
Well,
excuse
the
me, it's
problem
not
I
very
know.
wide at all.
The problem is that they're going to finish the north half.
Right.
The problem is on the south half, because that subdivision never put in, and again, I'm not saying it was their fault. It's just that road has moved a little bit, just like Washington Fields Road has moved. When I first started here, Washington Fields Road was about 30 feet more to the west.
So
than
does
what
the
it is
city
now.
does the city need to purchase all that extra ground because the individuals put up block walls along that road? Does the city need to purchase that additional land from every one of the homeowners?
You have a canal that runs right there.
The canal's underneath the ground. Right there it is.
Yeah, but there's an easement there.
The canal starts down at Adams property.
No, it starts at the top, but
But
it's
there's
just
water, it
underground.
flows underneath it, so it's underground.
Yeah, and it's right through the middle of this. It's right through the middle of this project as well. So then it comes across the road, I'm assuming.
It's been an open ditch canal. Now it's piped. I haven't confirmed that they've recorded an easement, but the city would acknowledge that in our experience that it's been a prescribed used waterway, and state law recognizes that those can be prescribed easements. I don't know what the canal company's position would be on that. Commissioner Musso, which land are you asking if the
I'm
city should
asking
acquire?
about, so where Russ Nielsen's house is on the corner there.
Mhm.
So they put up a block wall all along that area, all the way down to where the Joneses are, all the way to the corner. They put up a nice 6-foot-high block wall.
Correct.
in
Used
the
to be a
last year.
chain link, I think.
Yeah, in the last year. So there's a dirt strip that's about 10 or 15 feet wide behind their block wall. Is that, I'm assuming that's still their property, or is that the city's property?
We're on the corner right there.
Okay.
If you're gonna, please come up and
It'd be awesome
stuff on
if
the
you could
record,
come
not,
up.
yeah.
Actually, if you don't mind, before you start, let me do something. I'm going to open this up to a public hearing so we can get this on the record correctly. And if you wouldn't
Sorry, I
mind
was just
stating,
had
it's good.
input.
What you're going to say is so good. We want to hear it right now.
Okay.
But you got to state your name first.
Oh, I'm Angie Burrows,
All right,
and
Angie.
we're at 456 East. We're right on the corner. So we're the only house that faces that.
Right.
And I could be wrong, but when we looked at our property records, it shows that we have our little property, but then it extends that 10 feet,
Yeah, here, I'm gonna light it up for you. Oops,
Yeah.
wrong one. Come on.
which
There you
we
go.
just found that out last year, and we've lived here for 8
So you
years.
see their home she's talking about, 456 is right here. And because it's part of the subdivision of what happened, way back when, before you bought, it's
Yeah.
tagged all the way, all the way over there. So let me, technically, their property, they could close it down and keep all these people from going across. No, someone wanted to be a real Weisenheimer,
In the road.
but you know, I
So
mean,
they have to do the curb and gutter that whole length.
that's
then.
right. The boroughs now just, thank you, commissioners, you just dumped that. You're okay with that, right?
Yeah, for
Building
sure.
the curb and gutter? Good.
As
good.
long as it's to my specs. It's gonna be my curb and gutter.
Well, now we might have issue,
I mean, I
but
have kids that would be happy to come and do it.
Yeah,
Mom and Dad.
it's a strange remnant of how that subdivision was done. But currently, it is not reflected as city-owned land. If the city were to need to expand that road, obviously that space would be, considered. But there's also proximity to houses and different things. It's all there, and so none of that's part of this proposal. And so to answer your question,
Okay, but I guess my concern is that that road is so narrow right now, all the way down, past this subdivision, all the way to the end of that 40-acre parcel, all the way along Adams's property too. That road is super narrow, and it has poor access, and it's just not wide enough. So by the time you put in 100+ homes, and then you put in commercial, you don't have enough room. And trying to get trucks in and out of that is going to be limited access. And part of the reason why I'm concerned is that my daughter just wrecked my wife's car along that road
Oh, there's lots.
because she was coming east, and somebody was trying to turn to the north, and she looked down for a second, looked up, and put it right into Mr. Adams' ditch and totaled out her car. So that road is just super narrow, and the access is poor.
Well, and there's no turning lane, so.
Right, and there's no
when we
way
go
you
to
can
turn
make a
into
turning
Our
lane.
house, and I'm sure the neighbors that turn into that subdivision, I mean, it's a daily, we're swerving out of the way to not get rear-ended, even though we put our blinker on a mile ahead and say,
It's not wide
advertise,
enough.
we're turning.
It's not wide enough.
Yeah.
Okay.
so this development, just to tag to that, is going to be adding some more road, curb and gutter and everything on the north side. Their portion of that 66-foot wide 2000 South Street.
This is
So
Commissioner
to answer
Anderson.
the question, to get to full build out, there's going to need to be more road on both sides of what you currently see added.
Right.
So that's my question. This is Commissioner Anderson is if the homes on the south side of this are built out and this applicant is doing the north side, who's doing the south side then?
Right. It'll
And
never get
when is
built
that going
out.
to happen? Because it seems like in order for this project to go through, it needs to be done on the south side.
So if you move to the west along the Adams land, the city's development theory is usually that as raw land comes in, the applicant takes care of those things as they do it. This is the section that built out probably before our transportation plan was adopted. And so the city's going to have to come up with a solution for that section.
Sir, we'll have you talk in just 1 second. Sorry, I made a mistake here by opening up public comment before I had a chance to listen to all the commissioners' comments. So, if commissioners, if we want to continue to ask questions with staff, we can, or if we want to hold back for a little bit, looks like there's plenty of people here that would like to speak. We could do that, and then at the end bring up. Is that okay, or is there
That's
anything
fine.
you have right now that you want to bring up? Okay. Go ahead. Please state your name.
I'm Leonard Jones. I live 489 East Stanley Circle. So I live right next to Russ Nielsen. if you can zoom up just a little bit, and I can kind of explain that property issue that's between our block wall and the road. Angie just mentioned that that strip is her land right there, which is approximately 5 to 7 feet. And then to the south of that is another 5 feet to our block walls. Our property lines are actually out right up against where it shows right there. But the block wall that exists is 5 feet to the south because of the irrigation pipe that's there. And I met with the water district and they wouldn't allow us to put it on the other side. Well, they would. They'd allow us to put it on the other side, but they asked us not to. Because if something happens with that pipe, then we have to pay to have them come in and break a hole in the wall and so on and so forth. But as Mr. Musso mentioned, that road's a racetrack. And if you want to enjoy a good race, just Saturday morning, about 10 o'clock, the side-by-sides race up and down that road. I mean, full throttle. The city police could get all their funding just from that one road on Saturday mornings. But it is very dangerous. You can turn your blinker on like Angie mentioned, and I watch my rearview mirror and people will just fly around me. They'll clear out into the dirt. And so that road really is not wide enough to handle that. And then you have the entrances of this new commercial property would be right directly across from the entrance of our subdivision. And it's just it's a very poor situation to be in. The goals and the vision and goals and objectives of the city, one item states reduced high speeds and traffic levels through neighborhoods. Now granted, this is not through the neighborhood, but obviously our houses back that. And the whole purpose that we put the wall up was to decrease the sound. When the contractor was putting the wall in, he says, I won't do this again. He says, this is too scary because cars are just racing up and down there. So something has to happen to change this safety factor on that road. Widening it could possibly help, but I'm not sure. I think widening it's just going to turn like the freeway that we created with the Washington Fields Road.
Thanks, Leonard. Appreciate it. Thanks for being so patient. I know you want to jump up earlier. Go ahead.
Okay. My name's Nicole Kimsey, and I also live in this neighborhood. Side note, I was really surprised that I didn't get a letter about this. I know you have to send a letter out within a certain amount of distance, but if you just moved that barely, you would see my house. So that's another thing that I just hope at some point you guys would revisit, to maybe making the bubble a little bit bigger about who gets notifications on land changes like this. I already had a lot of concerns about the traffic on 2000 South when they announced that there was going to be a subdivision going across the street, for a lot of the same things that are being said. It's a traffic issue. 2000 South isn't capable of handling the traffic that's going to come from the new subdivision, and even more so because there was a choice to put townhomes there. It's going to create more traffic. You can see right there on the Nichols Peak subdivision, there are two different entrances and exits into the subdivision. One is on Franklin Drive, which is almost in the center bottom of the screen. And then there's another one that actually was the original Washington Fields Road, which now I don't even know what it's called. But anyway, it's Nichols Peak Drive, I think. But
600 East. 600
East. Going in and out of our neighborhood on 600 East, there's so much traffic right now before there's a new subdivision and before there's any more houses built and any more people coming in and out of Washington Fields. Going in and out of 600 East, a lot of times we have a very lengthy wait to get out of our neighborhood. It will get nothing but worse. That road's not equipped to handle the amount of traffic that's already coming its way. And I feel like we're going to be put in a situation that was like the bottom of Mall Drive, where you want to go up Mall Drive, and because that road starting at Lynn's was only 2 lanes, there were times from Maverick all the way back to Lynn's, it would be backed up sometimes during the day. And to add more congestion by adding a business, I feel like at this time would be irresponsible until 2000 South is better equipped to handle the traffic that is going to already be on it, because it's already going to be overloaded. It already is, and I think Mr. Musso mentioned that, Lenny Jones mentioned that, and it's one of a great concern that we all already have about it. And so I just hope that you'll take that into consideration tonight as you're voting, that to create another issue of traffic there would be really irresponsible until they figure out how to make 2000 South a safer place and a better traffic flow. So there's not going to be more and more and more congestion on it, whether that's widening it. I was shocked that the new subdivision didn't have to put in a turn lane or anything like that. Again, it's just a lot of traffic flow issues. That's the most important of the things that I have the most concerns about putting any businesses on that corner until that can be fixed.
Cool, thank you. As others come up, I should have announced this at the beginning. If you wouldn't mind trying to limit your comments to 3 minutes or less, that would be helpful for us. And the two did a great job. I'm not saying they went over, but just as a reminder.
Sean Sullivan, I represent Nice and Field LLC. We own the property around this commercial corner. I'm excited to see that there's something going forward with this piece, as you know, close in conjunction with our development. I'm just kind of get this corner wrapped up. I don't want to be redundant. I'll try to go through this very quickly, as I know, you know, reading some of Drew's comments before, I think he's covered a lot of these things. We would like to, I guess, support the project, but there's a lot of information that I feel like we still need to be able to stand up and support this. One, some of these people have brought up traffic. That's a concern of ours as well. On our original layout, we had in the PC, I guess it was the PCD originally that we submitted. There was an out on 2000 South, and now they've got traffic coming through into the neighborhood, which is very concerning to me. You know, because this where there's some, I got in the mail the what you showed earlier that has all the buildings. It has 3 drive-throughs, a C-store, a car wash, which just seems like a lot of traffic to be pushing out into a neighborhood, especially where there's a right in, right out on Washington Fields Drive. So I'm assuming most of the people are going to be coming through the neighborhood and coming out on the street. These you know, many of these people have kind of mentioned. I don't know the solution to that. I just wanted to note it of great concern for us as well. I would like to see, before approval on this, what the whole project is going to be like. I know you've brought up the concern of where they have their car wash, but once this is approved, it's going to limit where they can put the other buildings, and so the flow of traffic, I think, kind of gets limited on what their options would be. So I would really like to see, you know, kind of a whole plan going with that. Architectural design, we've really made it a point, even with naming our streets, to keep the heritage, Washington Fields heritage, like using, you know, Nice and Fields, you know, Roy Court, trying to use names that are, you know, very familiar in the Washington area, and we are designing our homes to be more of that style. So for us, we'd really like to see a little bit more, a better design on the car wash. I mean, it's block. It's about as basic as you could possibly be, as inexpensive as you could possibly be on a car wash. We would really like to see some more thought maybe put into their design, and we'd love to see. It's hard because we're kind of going into the car wash and overlooking these other buildings that they're doing, but we'd like to see it all cohesive to where it all blends together. Block walls, we would love for them to, even when we sold the property to these people, we wanted to be cohesive in our landscape and our block walls to just kind of keep a good flow coming down Washington Fields Drive and down 2000. We'd love to see a lighting plan. You know, what lights, as I'm sure some of the residents here that are across the street, we'd love to know what type of lighting and signage they're going to be using, whether it's monument or pole lights. We would love to see, again, elevations of the buildings, what's going to happen there. I think Drew brought up with the C-store with the pumps, maybe flip-flopping the pumps. But I'm afraid if this gets approved, it just limits to where that building can go, where the pump stations can go. I know I'm getting close on my time. I would like to submit just kind of our bullet points for public record as an adjacent landowner. And yeah, we just love to have some of this stuff, just more information presented before we kind of paint ourselves into a corner. That's all I have. Thank you
Thanks,
so
Sean.
much.
Appreciate it.
Commission, just because of the comments that were made, in a PUD zone, restrictions on straight zoning that might exist about design and materials used and construction that we wouldn't consider, that is all very much part of your analysis on a PUD zone. And so just to confirm that what he asked the commission to consider, if it were just a straight zoning somewhere else, I would be saying, we're supposed to just limit to the use. With PUD zoning, you very much are permitted under the law to consider all of those things.
Sorry to jump back in again, but that's one of our concerns is when we got this approved, it was part of a PCD where everything had to kind of be looked at as a whole, kind of like our whole project. We had to, with land planning, landscape, detention areas, tree line streets, all this came into consideration for this commercial piece. So I just like to kind of keep that same flow. Can I submit this?
I've just handed it to Drew right there.
My name is Markle Massey, and I live on Meadow Lane, which is south on Washington Fields Road from this proposed project. We've been involved in several zone changes that have happened. The area that Sean just mentioned, that the development that's being graded right now, the request that the Greens had to change their land to multi-unit homes there, and then the Kimball Gardner's request to make his property commercial. And in each of these times as we've been involved, what we've seen is that in all three cases, the city has come to each of these owners, and I say the city, I don't know who the individuals were, and asked for these things to be done, and that's what the property owners have come forth. And if I remember correctly, it was in December 2018 with the development that Sean's company is doing right now, that the last meeting of the city council, they asked Sean to give a synopsis of how this development had happened. And correct me if I'm wrong, but originally there was going to be a commercial property across from the churches on Washington Fields Road, and then the city, if I am understanding, they requested that it go on the corner, and from 10 acres down to 3.5, and each time the city's council has approved what was there, and it's been frustrating that my frustration is that the city has a master plan, which is part of what you're involved with, but in each one of these developments that's affected us, and that the master plan has not been followed, and that is that changes in densities don't go from one level of density more than one level to another on adjacent properties. So Kimball Gardner's home was a very low density, and now the Greens property across the street was duplexes, and in all of these things, that the master plan is not being followed, but I guess the 3 bullet points I would have is we really don't need commercial property at this location. It's been approved, and I know that it's a PUD, but because the city has requested, and the developers and the property owners have followed what the city's requested, I would ask in this situation that you would consider the adjacent property owners. So the Joneses and the Nielsen's, and I don't know the names of all of the others that are across the street and those that are over in the Desert Meadows subdivision. As this property develops, now they've got, in this case, a proposed business that's a 24-hour a day, 7-day a week, 365 days a year, that people are going to be in there washing their cars. And as it continues to develop, you've got street lights, and now, you know, besides the sound, you've got the lights, as was mentioned. You've got dumpsters that are going in, and for the development to the north, future tenants, future homeowners there, they've got dumpsters in their backyard that the dump trucks or the garbage trucks are coming in usually early in the morning. And I would just ask that you consider the needs of the property owners that adjacent to this. Lights that are dimmed down, garbage trucks can't come in unless it's during normal waking hours, block walls, something that will help minimize what is being forced into these neighbors. And I noticed in the staff comments that was in this, the statement was, there isn't another car wash on this side of the river. Well, there is one that's advertised down by Lynn's. And so I would ask each of you to consider, as this is being proposed, that you consider not just the neighbors that are here tonight that are directly involved, but all of those neighbors who are going to be right to the north of them, because they're just from me to you away from this property.
Commission, if I may just briefly as to the comments, the statement was that the master plan has not been followed, and the city requires that an application conform to the general plan. But I think what the commenter was trying to say is the general plan isn't static. You know, our general plan changes, and any landowner can come and submit and ask to change their general plan designation. And so there's no question that over the years, the general plan has changed. But anytime an applicant comes with a proposal, it has to conform to the current general plan designation before it can be considered. Drew's office wouldn't let it through if it didn't. Drew's office would tell them, first file an application to change the general plan, then bring your project. And so the city does follow the master plan. It requires that applicants follow it, but there is a process to change it too. The master plan is not a rigid document.
Thanks.
Just actually need clarification. My name is Marlena James, and is this property zoned as neighborhood commercial, or is it zoned as actual commercial?
It's zoned as PUD commercial, planned unit development commercial.
So which is neighborhood commercial?
Planned unit development commercial.
Neighborhood commercial is a general plan designation, not a zoning designation.
And so from what I'm looking at, and correct me if I'm wrong, this, when they have, like, we should be looking at like a pop store or at, you know, some salons or a drugstore, something of that nature, that's open 24 hours, which is be like a
So
liquor
you're looking
store.
at the straight zoning designations. This is not a traditional zone designation. So
you're
the
there-
neighborhood
you're
commercial
giving them-
has lists of uses.
Mhm.
Planned unit development commercial is not the same designation that you're looking at. Planned unit development is supposed to come in as a planned concept. That's where the council and the commission get to look at materials and
But
design.
we've planned it, I guess we've planned it so many times that I guess none of us know exactly what we're gonna go for, because it was at one point gonna be over across the street, you know, the 10 acres parcel. Then then I guess it got approved to come over here, and it was supposed to be neighborhood commercial, where there wasn't going to be a convenience store and things that are open 24 hours with having the lighting and the pollution of that kind of information. So I guess that's where our concern is we're something that is open 24 hours a day with having the lighting pollution, having all around the environmental pollution that it is going to come onto us as homeowners.
So this has not been planned before at this level, right? So there's the zoning level.
Mhm.
And you're talking, I think, at the zoning level, neighborhood zoning versus neighborhood commercial zoning versus PUD commercial zoning.
Mhm.
The city and the the council and commission prefer PUD because they have a lot more involvement as to how it looks, where it sits, what use it is. If it were neighborhood commercial and their proposal met one of the lists, one of the items within the lists, we don't get to tell them we don't like how it looks. Whereas with a PUD, the commission and council can express that view and the law will uphold it. Right? And so what you've gone through many times before is the question of zoning. Should it be, and it was always agricultural open space, what should it be next? This is now the next step after zoning, which is now that it's been zoned zoning, and the zone is planned unit development commercial, what should actually be planned for the use and the construction? And so I know some folks here are hoping that it doesn't get used for commercial. It was given vested commercial rights at a prior council decision.
Right. And it's inevitable when I know that it's going to happen.
Well, it's not inevitable, and I think your feedback is really good. Citizens should be here. That's why the law asks and requires us to do it. But yeah, as far as was it given, this decision tonight isn't whether it gets to be commercial. It's whether they recommend that the planning commission approve the concept that's presented.
You know, and I guess that's what I mean. My concern is we have had that we've had that community there for over 25 years. You know, and it's to bring in commercial. I know, and it is already going to be zoned. That I understand, but there's so many. It's going to diminish, number one, our property values as homeowners, the quality of our life. It's going to have the safety. I think to bring in this type of a commercial, I welcome to have. You know, if 10 years ago I would fought it tooth and nail. I mean, I hired an attorney and we didn't want to have it, and it was more of an emotional thing. I understand that the growth is coming, and I've accepted that, but there still has to be, I guess, the quality of life for us, the homeowners, and we have to be taken into accountability, you know, for our needs, and not just for the landowner. I am worried about the environmental part, that it is going to, you know, is it safe? Is it going to, it's the noise pollution and the air pollution and the lighting pollution that will affect our homes in our subdivisions. So.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Kelly Blake. I also live in the Nichols Peak subdivision, and I sent in a written response to this, and I have several questions in there that I really feel like need to be answered. Now, there was a comment, and Thad, you were on the city council when that property was over across from the church and the 10-acre piece was there, and I was here when they changed it over to the corner. But there was no public input there. We were told we were not allowed to give public input, that the city could move that to any place they wanted to. I don't think that's right. We've always had an opportunity to speak to a change in something like that in the future. Can you address that? How does the city do that when it was originally changed, or when it was originally down there on the other piece?
I'll answer that, Thad, if that's all right. I was all
And I
part of
wasn't
it.
on
We
the
had
council.
public hearings on that PUD, and it always showed that proposal for that PUD with the Sullivan's project showed this corner being PUD commercial. And there was public hearings on that.
I've been here to every single one of them, and I can tell you that
I'll be
right
glad,
now that I don't agree with that.
Tonight's
so.
not time, but I'll be glad to take you and show you, you know, you can pull them up on the website and
Right,
show
yeah.
those meetings, and they'll talk about so-and-so made this comment, so-and-so made this comment, so-and-so made this.
Yeah.
Those were all public hearings.
Right.
For that master plan, it's not a master plan, but that area plan that was the PUD that the Sullivans brought forth roughly almost 2 years ago.
Right.
There was public hearings at the Planning Commission, City Council that talked about the townhomes, the patio homes, the single homes, and this
Yeah.
corner piece.
And then Troy Belliston was on the board at that time, or was on the council at that time,
Mhm.
and he stated, well, we've already been discussing this without public input. They'd already been talking with the developer on this property for more than 2 years. That was his direct words. And if you go back to you'll see in the minutes, that's what he stated. He said, we have to give them something. That's when they addressed the 10-acre piece across from the church. But it didn't extend clear over to the corner.
But that new proposal was that proposal for that. That was part of that,
That was
zone
because
change.
the developer wanted to move it over there so they could have a better piece to be able
Right.
to sell.
But that was still part of that zone change request. And that was in those public hearings.
It may have been in that public hearing, but we were not allowed to speak to it. We were told not to.
You could have stood up and said, I don't like this. In fact, I
We
think
tried
probably a
to,
few of them
and we were
did.
told we could not.
Well,
So
the
the other
question,
question,
to answer it is that there were public hearings, on that PUD that moved this to the corner. There were,
And Kelly,
like,
I wasn't
take
on
it
the
through.
council during the decision that
the second time, no, you were out. You were
during
off.
my
You were on
council
the other
years,
time.
there was a
Yeah.
lot of discussion, but it
Yeah.
wasn't during, the council never voted to give it, the zoning that exists today was after my time.
Right. That, when they moved it down.
I think most of mine was on this smaller piece.
Right, a smaller piece that was up by
On
the
the
church.
corner.
To the-
Yeah.
Well, and the east little section there that wraps around Nichols Peak.
Right, the other
Remember
side.
We talked about that a
Right.
lot during my time too.
Yeah. The other question is, I mean, why would you put a gas station in the middle of a residential area? That makes absolutely no sense to
The
me.
gas station's not on the docket tonight.
Yeah, but
I'm
you
just saying-
you sent it out. It was in my house. I
And
got it at my house.
And I clarified that went out and that said future on it. I want to make
Yes.
everybody, and I started tonight letting everybody know that tonight is the car wash only. If they want to come, they'll have to do that in a separate public hearing. So we don't want to, when they do propose a gas station, feel free to come up and say, I don't want a gas station here.
I'll be
But-
back when that happens.
No,
too.
I'm just trying to
So-
help for this. We really need to just talk about the car wash. That's what they're asking for. So.
And again, doesn't seem like it's appropriate for the area. Where this is a residential district, it doesn't make any sense. I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thanks, Kelly.
Nicole Kimsey again. I just wanted to bring up one other thing, and I'll just take 20 seconds because I forgot to mention this in my notes, and I could be wrong, but I do believe that the instructions to the developers were to come back with a complete plan, and they haven't followed those instructions, if that's correct, because a car wash we know isn't a complete plan because we've all seen the layout of what they want the complete plan to be. And so, for reasons that were brought up earlier, I would like to see them fulfill that, where it's just like, no, here we are, here's the complete plan, we can see everything that's there, because doing it piecemeal is a very unorganized way to do it, and they're kind of coming in, I feel like they're kind of trying to sneak in there and just be like, well, let's just get started, and then we're gonna add this, and then we're gonna add this. When I believe even when you read the notes, it was, you need to come back with a complete plan, that's all.
Thank you. Before the next commentary, I just want to make a comment. One of the things as planning commissioners, we sit up here and this is our meeting. This is our planning commission meeting, and the public is invited to come up and speak. And one of the things that you haven't had a chance to understand this evening is how we feel about this project. And personally, I feel like I'm being told how I feel about this project by some of the comments. And I'm like, well, hold on a second. You have no idea, for me personally, if I agree with you or if I totally disagree with you, if I hate the project, if I love the project. So I just want you all to know, when you're making your comments, it helps me tremendously if you just tell me what your comment is, not what I'm doing or what I'm going to tell the city they should do or what the city's doing or anything like that. I have no idea. I mean, I've been given this application to look at. I have my own questions and concerns and comments about it. I just haven't had a chance to express them. I just want everybody to take a step back and take a breath and go, we're here to listen. I just want to say that, honestly. I mean, all our job is as planning commissioners is that we recommend to city council if it's been followed, if it's followed the city ordinances, if it, and all the things that have already been mentioned. You guys are public, I'm public. You're smarter than I am. I'll be the dumbest guy in the room. We always joke about, I'm definitely the dumbest guy in this room all the time. I'm happy to be that. But I don't want you to feel when you're at the podium that you need to be as sharp as some of the comments that I've heard, because we feel the same way, probably in a lot of your comments. We just haven't expressed that and we haven't had a chance to. So I'm happy, obviously, to continue listening to comments, but we're on the same team listening to what your comments are. So I welcome that, but I feel like I wanted to say that. I just wanted to say that, and because I get to sit up here in this chair in the middle, it gives me the opportunity to say it. So I'll go ahead. Let's open this back up.
My name's Karen Blake, and I also live in Nichols Peak subdivision. I understand what you're saying, and for me, we've been going this circle for like over 15 years. It's been a long time, and we feel we have to come in and we do the same thing over and over again. To the comment as in we're only discussing this part, I feel frustration in the fact that I feel that that's why we're here in this spot right now. We came when they had the whole big project, we came with our thoughts and our proposals or whatever, and we were told that when they came to do it, they said, okay, we're going to take your things into advisement, and then we're going to meet again in 2 weeks, and we're going to vote on what we're going to do with this huge big property. We came back in the 2 weeks, and we were told that the city council was to vote, and they voted to change it to a PUD or whatever the proper name is. They changed it to that map, saying that, okay, as a council, we can have control over where the commercial goes or where the homes go or what is put in here. As a city, we will have more control. And they said we can put the commercial down across this from the church. And that's where they proposed it, and that's how they presented it to the people. We asked if we could comment, and we were told no, we couldn't comment, that it was just a voting session, and that so the council voted to change it to this planned development. So we basically, when they changed it to the PUD or whatever the proper name is, we didn't get to come in and say as people, we weren't able to say, hey, this is going to work or not going to work, or these are our concerns. So, and then go ahead to the next time they bring this subdivision, which the Sullivans have proposed, which they did come in with all their maps, and they proposed this great subdivision, and they moved the commercial to the corner. When we came in to give public comment, we were told that we couldn't talk about the corner because that wasn't what was being brought to you to be agreed upon. So we couldn't say how we didn't want the gas station, or we didn't want commercial, or our concerns for traffic and all those kinds of things that we have our issues with. We couldn't say anything. And so they decided that they proposed the subdivision, and that's the way it is, with this piece of property set on the side. So now here we are again, and you're telling us, oh, we're only going to talk about this corner piece. We aren't going to talk about the rest. So basically, what you're doing is the same thing again. Or I feel that has been presented to us. I'm not saying you're doing this. I feel that being presented to us again is that you have this plan. They're proposing to put all of these other commercial things in there, that this is going to be a huge commercial project, that we don't have the infrastructure, we don't have the safety, the roads. I mean, to even walk across that street, even with lights, people turning and everything, and from our subdivision trying to get in and out, it's already crazy, and we don't even have the houses there. And then plus to have the 24-hour, 365 days, people come and they congregate. We don't want people just hanging out on the corner. We don't want it. And as far as the master plan, that's great. When I built my house, it was agriculture or whatever, and I didn't want to be right in the city. I didn't want to be right by commercial. And now here 20 years later, I'm getting it in my backyard. And it seems that we have no say. And Mr. Bellison did tell me personally that he had been talking to these people for 2 years, and that he felt that he needed to give them what they needed because he had already been planning it, which I don't think that's right. if they've already planned something for 2 years and yet they bring it to us or to you to vote on it, and they've already got everything already in place. So it's very frustrating as a person that is our voice heard? I mean, does the plan just go ahead and regardless of what people need or want? And as far as safety and our subdivision, and we have cars, because they can't get through at one place, they come up or go right around our street. We have people cutting through all the time. And it's just, so in our defense, it's just frustrating because we're limited on what we can say. And I feel that if you agree to this plan development, that it is already in the proposal to be a huge, great big commercial. And if you put step 1 in, we're already going to get step 2, 3, and 4 or whatever. It's already going to be there. And so for what you guys do now, whether we can't talk about it because our gas station is not on the board, that's not right. Because ultimately down the road, that gas station is on the board. That's what's going to be step 2. And I think that's what we need to address, is because at the tail end, what is it going to be at the tail end? Because this little first place, that's just step 1. So thank you.
Thanks. Karen, I think you hit it right on the head. 3 minutes and 1 second. Good job. Is there anybody else that would like to come up and make a comment or speak today in the public session? All right, I look for a motion to close the public comment at this time.
As Commissioner Musso, I move that we close the public comment.
Ms. Shill, I second.
I've got a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. All right, commissioners, at this time, I will open the floor for you for any questions for the staff. And then if we need to, or in a little bit, we'll ask for questions toward the applicant. I'm assuming is here.
This is Shill. I'm sorry they feel like they can't talk. That does bother me a little bit, but that's why it's a PUD, because it comes in sections to be able to discuss this in an open session. I do agree that I think they're trying to backdoor this a little bit on us. They're doing the cheapest commercial project on this property to start with, because it's going to be the easiest thing to do. I think they need to come back with a whole plan on the whole property. Personally, I think it's a little funky the way it's laid out. I don't know where they think they're going to find their tenants is going to have a drive-through behind a car wash. Typically, you build your retail centers or whatever from the back to the front, and they're hiding their back, and so it's going to be tough to get a tenant. So that's my 2 cents worth.
I just have a question to clarify for staff. When I came on, I guess it's been almost 4 years now, the Sullivan project was the first project I saw that evening. And I remember when we moved the commercial piece to the corner, at least that's the only thing I've ever known, is it being at the corner. If there was a bigger commercial piece, I just want to clarify this for me because it helps me in my mindset with this particular project. If there was a bigger commercial piece in the center, was it the city's intention to try to lessen the commercial for the betterment of the surrounding residents, or is there a lot of pushback of why this ended up where it is, which I personally, I think rightfully so, this is where it should be, but I didn't know anything about a bigger commercial piece in the middle, and I'm just kind of curious of if there's any accuracy to what was said about that.
Well, there is, and I'll just kind of show you that. I'm going to zoom out here a little bit, just. A couple of zone changes ago, right in front of these 2 churches is where they ended up putting a 10-acre piece. If you see where my arrow's kind of going, it just was directly opposite the churches. Mm-hmm. They felt, that council at that time and that commission at that time just felt because of the movement and all the busyness of the churches, it'd be best to have the commercial up there as well. That was just the reasoning, for that. And so it ended up being up here, and that's where it sat for a couple of years when still the Nisons owned it, Nison family. And then they put the project, the whole piece up for sale. The family, the siblings all got together, Roy's kids, and decided we're just going to sell the project off, to offer to whoever. And then the Sullivan and their partnership, went into a contract. They had an idea what they wanted to do, and so they brought in a PUD, a planned unit development, and ended up as part of their layout. They wanted it down on the corner to make everything else flow with their, through the rest of the project out here. And it was just a proposed zone change, and ended up, and part of that, there was 3.5 acres. Down here, there was part of that PUD. And again, it was always put on there, to come at a future date, commercial at a future date. The Sullivans probably never, I don't know, I'm not going to try to speak for them, and Sean can say, but I don't know if they ever intended on trying to develop the commercial piece, but they just wanted to they're a home builder, and they wanted the rest of that, and so that's what they started. And then I guess recently they put it up for sale, and it's been purchased by the applicants,
And to go even farther
Capital
back.
D Investments.
Sorry, Joe.
Purchase that. So yeah, just to answer, there used to be a 10-acre piece, but I don't know, I don't think it was the city came and said, oh, we want this now. It was just part of how they laid out their proposed PUD, and it ended up going through, there were things that got tweaked and turned and, whittled down on that, but that 3.5 acre piece was always just down on the corner, because that's just where everybody felt it was going to be the best, instead of trying to keep it up here, have the homes surround it, and then put homes on that corner, that busy corner instead. So that's kind of where it ended up. So just a quick little history.
Before the
Go ahead.
10-acre piece, there were proposals years
Whole
ago.
area.
The whole piece would be commercial, right? And so it's been well represented by the citizens every time. And what it is today is kind of where it ended up as the place developed and precise decisions had to be made. That's the history. Yeah.
I just wanted to know, because, I'll leave it at that.
So let's get back to what we're talking about.
Yeah, it was,
Okay. I've been in St. George for 27 years, in the area for 27 years, and I've been an appraiser for 22. I can't think of any place where they've put in this kind of a car wash in the last 20 years in St. George area. This is something that's like right out of the 70s. And I mean, it's like, when I first opened this up and I looked at it, I thought, the 70s are calling and they want their car wash back, in all honesty, because it's just, it's not appealing. It doesn't have any aesthetics to it at all. It has vacuums that back up to a road. It's going to be 24/7 right across the street from a, residential area. When I think of these car washes like this, I'm looking at stuff that's old, and okay, granted, there's nothing south of the river. Well, there's probably a reason for that, and the other thing is that I've never seen one of these that are really, really well kept, because what happens is that you're going to end up with everybody coming off the Washington Dam Road from Warner Valley, or coming up from Warner Valley with their big old muddy trucks and their razors. And Lenny, Mr. Jones already referred to the razors going up and down that road constantly. They're going to constantly be washing themselves off in this thing. So you're going to create mud. You're going to create stuff it's not going to be I'm not a big environmentalist, but I guess it would not be environmentally friendly. So I can't see where this is going to be helpful to the city, helpful to the area, helpful to the neighborhood. And I think that's part of the objective of the city, is they're trying to look for a commercial that actually enhances the property. The other thing is that, maybe if we saw the whole package, it might be a better deal. So we could see what the whole, everything looks like. But this part, just as it is, there needs to be more in it, that you need to bring more to the table. So I would, personally, I would recommend that we table this thing, you know, till a later date, so to allow you to either bring in the whole PUD parcel, you know, let us know what the whole package is, or something to that effect. But as of right now, I don't think we have enough information other than what we've been given to really make a deciding factor on it tonight. I think we need to actually table it and then look at it. Because I do agree with what Commissioner Shields said, is that this seems kind of backdoor. And I think Drew in his comments, why they didn't give it a positive, you know, affirmation is it looks like you're trying to backdoor it by doing the thing that's like, okay, let's throw the car wash and let's see if we can get a denial or a referral and get it through the city council. And then, you know, if we get that planned, then, okay, it'll be easier to get the gas station. And it just feels like you're trying to throw it up there and let's see if it sticks against the wall. And that's personal opinion, and maybe I'm all wrong. So I invite you to correct me if I am. So that's all I have to say.
This is Commissioner Anderson. So I think my biggest problem with this is, and I think Ms. James hit it on the nail, is that if this were straight zoning, there would be a list of approved uses. You know, somebody would look to do it and either would or it wouldn't. But this, you know, this was changed to PUD for the sole purpose that we would have more control, we would have more say over what's there. We could, and like Sean said, we could have better control of the architecture, the aesthetics, the landscaping, you know, and also, you know, transportation, the roads, et cetera, the lighting, all these issues that everyone's talked about tonight. The purpose of allowing a zone change to PUD is supposed to help those things, not make it worse. And I feel that that's where we are. And I think that's why so many of the residents are frustrated, is because it's gone to PUD, and now the project that's proposed here, this is not a complete PUD submittal. This is a partial, and it's a partial that doesn't incorporate any of the reasons why we approve it to be a PUD in the first place. You know, it doesn't have any cohesion. It doesn't address any of the lighting, any of the transportation, any of the landscape architecture, anything. All we have is, you know, where the streets will go in, where they'll go out, and a car wash, and that's it. You know, and again, if we do this, like Sean said, this will limit what else can go in there, and then it's going to be pigeonholed into where you're forced to only allow a certain number of things because this, you know, structure is built, and you can't plan anything more cohesive. So I mean, I don't even think it's worth tabling. I think this is not even a full submittal. I think the point of a PUD is we need to see what the whole thing is as one, you know, big package, not as a building or this or that. I think it needs to show what it is. We need to have the architecture, the landscaping, the lighting, and I think all this, the transportation issues have to be addressed. And I don't think we can put this in and then say, well, somewhere down the road, somebody will deal with the transportation, maybe the city, maybe somebody else, whatever. I mean, I'm reading minutes, you know, from clear back in 2018 when we were talking about this, both, you know, planning commission and city council, and this traffic and the turn lanes, all this stuff was an issue back then when it was being, you know, made a PUD. And I mean, Public Works said that their hope was that when we put in Merrill Road, that would cut the traffic in half, and then it wouldn't be an issue. But that was back in 2018. We have a lot more traffic now than I think was anticipated in 2018. And while Merrill Road definitely takes traffic off of it, I think we've got more traffic on, you know, Sandia Road now than we did at that time when it was a concern to even make it a project. So I think we got a lot of concerns that have got to be addressed, fixed, to where, I mean, this is going to be a commercial project. I mean, that's not going to go away, but I think it can at least be cohesive with the neighborhood. We can address transportation, we can address light pollution, we can address the aesthetics, the design, and make it where it looks nice in the neighborhood. Because there's a huge difference in the appeal of a well-designed commercial, project versus, something that is non-cohesive and disjointed. And I don't think this is even I would vote to reject it.
Now, let me bring up something. And this is where politics comes in. Is that if we deny it, then it goes to city council before the end of the year. And it doesn't. When's their hearing? If they appeal the denial, when's their hearing?
A meeting that last week.
So this is a recommendation. So if you deny, it still goes to city council. So there wouldn't be an appeal from your decision tonight, whether it's
Is it
approved,
before the end of the year or
deny, or-
after the first of the year?
After.
Okay. And that's for sure. Because they have a planning commission, they have a city council meeting scheduled, don't they, between now and then?
It's turning into a farewell to the old council members night, a sending off afternoon
Okay.
for them. Instead, it's on a Tuesday afternoon.
And it's also close to the holidays, so they're trying not to make it a big, long agenda.
Okay. Yeah, because my concern would be that you have 3 members of the council who are not there anymore. You have one who's going to be the mayor, and you have 2 that got voted out. And I'd hate to see somebody who's not on the council actually vote on something that has this dramatic of effect on the community.
Yeah, that's not the schedule. The new council members can be welcomed
And I'll withdraw my comment.
by this issue, yeah.
But at the same time, if we table it, it gives, time to revisit and maybe come up with something more cohesive. Whereas if we reject it, then everything we've talked about, gets set aside and it goes to city council. So it might be better to table, although I think it'd have to be a fairly long
The
table.
legal concern with tabling is there is a limitation as to the duration. You can't table it indefinitely, because that does prohibit them from having their chance to go to the city council and see what they say. And so if when the applicant gets a chance to talk and you feel like, there's some progress that can be made with the table, I would be comfortable with that. But if it's just to table this until something else is submitted, I don't think that we have a good legal basis for that. I would just suggest you have an up or down vote and send it on. And
What are the parameters of that?
Of a table?
Yeah, like time frames, how short, how long? Like
I think it's debatable depending on what you're asking them to do, because you don't want to say, I'm going to table it for 2 weeks and then ask them to redesign this whole corner. That's not.
and
No, but
that's
they
what I'm
have
getting
the
at
corner
is
designed.
I'm
No,
not.
They have the corner designed.
Well, no, they have it
We don't
laid
have
out,
that.
but they don't have specifically the other buildings. I don't think they have the finish and what you would need in your PUD. That's what I'm saying. No, they laid it out. You saw that, but I don't think they've gone the extent other than drawing the boxes on the, where the stores are going to be. They haven't, I don't think, designed the finishes, and that's part of
And that's
what
what
your
I'm saying
PUD
is
's
I'm not
about.
comfortable even, voting on this without having an actual PUD design that shows all this stuff. Now, at the same time, I'm not opposed to the project going forward. That's not it at all. I just think it needs to be a lot more well thought out.
I think what you're saying is you want the full PUD planned and
Yes.
designed with elevations and design elements. And I think you would just say, I would say vote up or down on this. What you're saying is just a incomplete application.
Yes.
Tell them that you'll consider it again if they bring it back full.
And plus, they want to agree to that. They may say, you know what, I don't. You guys can go ahead and give
Would
a
it
thumbs
just go
down
to
and we'll
city
take
council
it.
or are we tabling it because of incomplete application?
Tabling it is where I get concerned if it has a long duration, because by tabling it, it prohibits them from their right to go to the city council as the law stands today. And so I think some applicant feedback will help you try and decide what you want to do on your motion.
And I'm not trying to table it indefinitely. That's not my point. I want to table it until they can actually give us a plan
and
that
and
we
if
can give the residents, say, hey, this is what
if
it's
they
actually going to
want
look
to,
like.
again,
If they
then-
want to do that.
Right.
But to answer your prior question, I wanted to say 8 weeks, but again, there's not a law that says you can only table it 8 weeks or shorter, right? But the court cases, the more weeks that it's just kind of holding them out there with nothing being determined, the harder it is to justify the table. So the longer your table, the harder it is to have it withstand the scrutiny of the law.
No, I will add one more comment, I guess, in the sake of, since we were asking them to revisit layout, I do think that staff is correct in saying that having a car wash first is a bad idea. I think that having a car wash right out there on the street is the main thing you see is a aesthetically bad idea. I'm not going to say whether I'm opposed or for a car wash in general, but I think, again, we have to see the whole plan. We have to see how it ties into the community, the neighborhood. It addresses the transportation issues. It addresses, light pollution issues, and it addresses all the architectural, cohesiveness of it. And I think we need the whole plan before we can vote on it.
One of the things that I definitely want to make sure that's from my comments are, I'd like to hear more input, not tonight, but in the future from the city about that intersection as far as the road, what can and can't be done. 'Cause it sounds like it's a problem regardless. And so at some point in the future, I'd like to hear just a little bit more about what the longer term plan is and what that might look like 10 years from now when that commercial's developed. That would be helpful to me. So I don't necessarily want to up or down a project based on just that alone, but that's a big part of what I need to understand a little bit better with the canal thing there and all that stuff. Commissioners down here, do you have any other comments or questions before? I definitely want to invite the developers up at some point here. And
So I have a question for Thad, I guess, to maybe clarify what some of the people have said. So if we vote to deny this, then it goes to city council. So the public hearing is here at planning commission, or is there a public hearing at city council as well on it?
Both bodies hold a public hearing.
Okay, so I just wanted to clear that for the public so they know.
Yeah, both bodies hold the public hearing.
you got that, Kelly, right? Yeah.
Only on the preliminary plats, the public hearings here, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
This is a PUD zone issue, and so on zone changes, both bodies hold a public hearing. And the way our law is written in the state laws is whether you recommend approval or recommend denial, it still goes but to the council. And so the citizens get to come and represent their interest before both bodies on this type of a decision.
But to speak to their question, there are some things when you go to city council that we only have public hearing at here and not at city council. And so,
correct.
You have a preliminary plat. So that could be confusing to people if they made comment here and then they went to city council on a preliminary plat and there isn't public comment.
Absolutely. And it's a very common confusion. Yeah. Another one is, and we've seen this tonight, this is going to create traffic problems, but most of our traffic solutions on our roads are built by the developers, right? So most of our roads get widened when we require that the developers give the city land and build curbs and sidewalks. And so it's kind of the beauty of the difficult essence of local government, right? And so that road, as you head to the west, you'll see its full build out at current stage. But if in 20 years, somebody needs a new highway, they could come and condemn houses and yards. And I mean, the ability to expand roads is always there. The city doesn't have that as its current plan. The city's current plans are what you see to the west of that road once you get beyond the agricultural spaces. But yeah, frequently our traffic solutions are also built by your developers too.
And that's why I'm saying, as part of this plan, I mean, we can't have the commercial here unless this development addresses the traffic issues, at least that are adjacent to this property, even if it is on the other side of the road. I mean, it's got to be fixed, whether it's turn lanes, deceleration lanes. I mean, road widening, something has got to be. And again, yeah, it's got to be taken care of with this development, or it won't be taken care of at all.
And I guess my question is, this is Musso, by the way. I guess my question is that how can it be rectified? Because that subdivision is there, it's built out. There's not going to be curb, gutter, and sidewalk over there.
Well, it can be. It can be.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, curb, gutter, and sidewalk is in a lot of yards today that used to be people's backyards,
Okay,
right?
but the road's not going to get any wider. I mean, there's a 10-foot, according to Mr. Jones, there's 5 feet and then there's another 5 feet. So are they going to be able to put the road all the way up to their block wall? But they still own that property.
I don't know what the city's future will be, but can a government take backyards to
Eminent
expand a
domain,
road?
yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we all know that.
The
but-
challenge we have here is the proposal doesn't own the south side of the road.
Right.
And so the city would have to be involved. If the commission and the council tell the applicant and the city, look, you got to fix both sides of the road's problems to get this through. I mean, that's what your prerogative is, and the city would have to become involved in some way to figure that out. We do not have the legal prerogative to just force the developer to develop on property on the other side of the road, right? So that's where the city gets involved.
And I understand that. I'm just saying, for this project to be viable, you've got to fix the road on both sides of the road, however that.
And that's a really
occurs.
astute statement. I think it really is, yeah. I mean, both sides of the road. You know, historically, we kind of let the roads develop as the landowner develops it. And if the commission says this is a spot where that's not, the historic practice just doesn't apply because of what's on the ground, I think it's a very good comment.
Just to add, you can look here in that gray area. I put the blue line. The blue line means it's a 66-foot major collector is what it's called. You can see the build out right here as you come onto it. So it won't take that much. It's not like we're going to be embedded in people's back. You know, I'm just giving a bird's eye kind of guesstimation. It's probably going to go in that strip that those one folks realize that they own all the way down the street. But that I can't see it going much farther in there anyway.
And those same canals that are buried there, those canals are buried under Fields Road. They're buried under a lot of our roads. So that's not a road problem. Does it change how they design and build it? Of course, but we've got those same buried canals under most of the roads in the fields. And so, yeah, the road can widen, and in 20 years, they might make it 6 lanes and, you know, take houses and do all the stuff that they have to do that. But that's not tonight. Tonight, as it stands today, that you're laughing. You've seen their projections
I'm
for
just
our
like,
county.
oh man, we should open up to public comment again.
But the current master plan for that road is to look like it looks to the west, where it is fully built out as it approaches the Lynn's area. That's the idea of what it's supposed to be built out to.
You can build over the canal.
Oh yeah,
You
there's
can put
canal
a
under.
road over the canal. You
Sometimes if you drive along Fields Road at like 3 a.m. down by the Washington Dam Road and Fields Road, there's actually irrigation valve gates right inside of the lanes of traffic. I mean, you'll have old farmers out there, their truck parked with the lights on, literally sitting there, turning a valve in the middle of the road. And so, yeah, the canals are under these roads. Well, yeah. I mean, the way the canal company's position is, and this is supported by Utah laws, you can build whatever you want over them, but it's at your risk. If they have to come fix the pipe and tear your house down, they don't have to rebuild it or pay you back, right? And so usually they say, don't build anything over it, but if you have to, don't build a house, build a wall or something cheap, because we're not going to fix it for you. You have to rebuild it when we come in.
And just briefly, so that you understand about this road anyway, like we can only go down this area that's not yellowish, brown, whatever. That's not even in our jurisdiction.
Right.
So I can't be building out the road to its full width on Mr. Adams' property until it gets into the city and gets developed, just so you understand that. That's county right now.
That'll stay county for a long time.
Yeah, the whole thing's complicated, really.
Yeah. You have lots of issues, guys.
Yeah.
Okay,
Well,
anyway, moving forward.
There's a lot of issues with that land. We wish it was in the city because we could regulate it a little differently. But that landowner, you know, again, the essence of the challenge of local government. We've got the second largest feedlot in our city right next to citizens who built next to it, right? Or who built next to the farm that it's on. I mean, it all flows and ebbs and comes and goes, and we just do the best
At least
you
the
can,
feedlot was
right?
there first, right?
Well, the
Rather than
feedlot
after.
wasn't at that location. That landowner chose to put it there, I think, because he didn't like houses. I mean, and now he's got houses and traffic. And so, I mean, that's the essence of being a local government and being a representative that has to face the people.
One of the things,
From the developer.
yeah, I was gonna say, I kudos to the developers for sitting there. Nobody's like, I don't know, you guys are taking a lot of comments I'm sure you'd like to respond to. So I want to give you an opportunity, if you want, to stand up and say whatever you want. We definitely, I think for me personally, in being through a number of years of these meetings, I've kind of noticed, I felt like we went completely off the rails of what we were supposed to look at. And I hope that some of our comments have brought it back in some regard to what we are looking at. And if we haven't made ourselves clear, please let us know, and I'll be more than happy to share some things from my own, but I'm sure some of the others would as well. But our concerns that we have, I think we've given you some to think about. If you'd like to stand and speak, please do. You're not limited to 3 minutes, but I don't want to be here till 10 either. So whatever you'd like to do. And just state your name for the record. Thanks.
I'm Taylor Ricks. I'm the engineer on the project representing the applicant, and my comments are probably the least controversial, so it's good that I go first. I wanted to speak to the transportation concerns that have been brought up because I know those are a major concern. So starting on Washington Fields Road southbound, I know you had the concern about the bulb out. There's two different schools of thought. There's a right turn decel lane above that right in, right out access. So by putting the bulb in, you're requiring people to either pick the first right turn lane they come into to enter the commercial area, or merge into the second right turn lane to go on to Sandia. The other school of thought is don't put a bulb in, make it one really long right turn decel, but then you potentially create a high speed conflicting movement for people trying to exit the commercial development and potential for collisions to the driver's side of the vehicle. So two different schools of thought, not that one's right over the other, but as we pursue the design, that's definitely something we can look at and discuss with staff.
I don't mind. I know there's a reason. I just didn't know who had it, and that explains it. And I know I can think of something that's just like that in town when I'm coming off the Hospital Hill by Maverick there to turn on Mall Drive. I almost turn into Maverick every time because
Yes.
it does that to me.
It's
So
the exact
I
same
understand
thing.
now what you're saying. Yeah.
So benefits to both ways. Second, on Sandia, I believe the widening that we are proposing to put that north curb and gutter and sidewalk in will accommodate introducing the center turn lane for two-way left turn lanes, which would solve a lot of the issues we've heard tonight with potential rear end crashes. There is an option, if staff wanted us to look at it, to eliminate some of the landscape frontage in favor of a westbound decel right turn lane into the subdivision. So I don't know that we're totally limited to what you're seeing today, but we are proposing to widen to the full 66-foot right away on the north side for the developer's portion. So I think there will be some solution to some of the issues that have been on that road in the past. I wanted to talk to Sean Sullivan's, a couple of his comments. One, I leaned over to the developer when he was up here, and I think the developer is very much in favor of coordinating with Sean and his development to create a cohesive style between the two. I think it makes sense. They were all approved under a PUD, and it would make sense for both property owners to try to create a cohesive environment. So I think there's definitely a positive affirmation there. And secondly, he made a comment about the access and their locations. He was concerned about the access on the west that went right into the subdivision. And I guess my only response to that is the two accesses we're showing were prescribed by the construction plans for the residential PUD area. We didn't have any choice in that. They came from the construction drawings for that. So if there's a desire to change those, I guess the developer I'm working for and Sean's engineer, we could all work together to adjust the location of an access, of course, with staff's involvement. I know there was some concern about lighting. Regardless of what type of commercial development goes in, I think you'll see some lighting. We will be working with the architect, Derek Wiggins, to select lights that have very little spill and are shielded and direct most of the light towards the ground, and will be sensitive to the context and the location, given that. Those are my initial thoughts. I'll let the developer and the applicant take a few minutes if they'd like. Thank you.
Thanks, Taylor.
Thank you. My name is Darren Snow, one of the partners in this project. Just want to address the reason we went with the car wash first, and Mr. Musso to get back 1970 style. These car washes are being tore down. These car washes serve a need. I know there's the quick quacks and the different, but they touch your car. They're a different entity. This is big enough for like the razors. We own a car wash now, which is similar to this. That's why we're going with the car wash first, because we know that business. The mud, and you go to our car wash, it's very clean. I agree with you. There are some of these coin ops, or whatever you want to call, are not well kept. Cleanliness is next to godliness. So We keep our site very, very clean. As for the mud, yes, we do get a lot of mud with the razors and et cetera, just when they're doing their thing. Of course, we bring, that customer comes here, that mud stays contained, not washed in front of their house, even though I know and what, that's probably not legal, but it probably happened somewhere. So that's why we started with the car wash, and of course we want to move with the restaurants and then the service station. We want this is a community for this whole community, not just the community also across the street, the community that's there. It's a wide group. There's a lot of traffic on that road. That traffic's going to be there regardless if there's a commercial building there or not. It's still going to be a thoroughway. All we're going to do is might divert them for a minute to fuel there or to wash their car here or to get their sandwich there, as opposed to driving clear into town to where all the congestion is, like on exit 10. That's one thing. As our neighborhoods expand out, we need to have more of these, I don't know, what do you call it? Places where the community can go to instead of driving clear across town. So it's not I know it feels like a 1970, and I know the PUD, the plan, we're here to make it look whatever it needs to look like. So, and I do respect the neighbors across the way and the new neighbors that are gonna come. I know you brought up the trash and the light. The trash, we have residential trash trucks. I get one that comes right by my house at 6 in the morning, picking up the neighbors. It's loud and noisy. It's gonna be the same thing. It'll be once a week. I'm just trying to, it is a need. It might be not need for everybody, but I think it will be used. Once it's up, people go, wow, I'm glad it's here. Everything we think about it, most of the stuff that's denied, and then when it finally happens, it's like, wow, it's being used and it's good to go. But that's just my opinion. I want you to know that we are a car wash operator. That's why we put the car wash first. It's not to snake in to get anything. It's what we know, and we know, and then we know from watching what's going on in some other communities to put the restaurants there, so people don't have to go clear across town to go to the restaurant. I guess they can use DoorDash, but this is much more convenient for them. So that's all I got to say.
Thanks, Darren.
Thank you.
Derek Wiggins, architect with Reflect Architecture. If we could pull up the images of the buildings, I think it would help. So the first thing, I heard a few comments, and I'd just like to talk first about the articulation of the building. Think about what it could be. It could be just a plain box with no articulation at all in the facade. We definitely wanted to make it more interesting than just a plain box. We are limited somewhat based on the use of a car wash, because I mean, that's what it is. It's a car wash and it needs to serve that primary function. And so and right along with that, the height of the building is what we feel is the bare minimum to make it serviceable as a car wash. We were very considerate to the residents, because I have a house too, and I like to maintain my view as much as possible. And so with the slope of the roof, that's as tall as it's going to get, or that's as short as it can get. And so the second thing would be materials, or the third thing really. So block by nature is what's required for car washes due to the water that's there. We can't do stucco. It'll get destroyed over time. Same with the fact that we do have cars driving around this building. We want something that's going to last. That's not going to get beat up constantly. So, and then the last thing would just be, I'd encourage everyone to look up manual car washes and see what they actually look like, because I feel like this is quite a step up from the car washes you do see. The colors are much more palatable for a residential area. I did a quick search, and most of them are blue or red or yellow. And so I feel like this would fit in a lot better than what's been provided in the past. And again, touching on the materials, we did do some upgrades to this building. We introduced some stucco, which again feels residential, and then also we added concrete roof tiles. Could have been asphalt shingle. So we have been considerate, and we've done what I feel is a good job with providing a quality project that does fit into a residential zone, residential area. So thank you.
I really don't want to let you come up here, to be honest with you, but it looks like you're going to do it anyway. If you want to do that, it's
The
on
only,
your own
the only
dime.
thing I
It's-
want to say is it makes more sense if you've got a partial application with a partial design, maybe you table it so that you get a full design, so you guys have a better,
Thank you.
something more to look at.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Any of the other developers want to say anything? You guys good? Do you guys, I want to know, because I definitely am not, I don't think any of us actually, I've known them for long enough to try to speak for them. I don't think by any stretch are we just trying to shut this down. What we want to work with what you guys want, that you think is best for you right now. However you want to define that. I mean, you've heard from us. There's a lot of things that I could say about my own personal feelings, but I think that a lot of it's been said and it's not worth dragging on. But we have some problems. And so what do you guys want us to do? Do you have an input? Do you have anything you want to say about what, if you don't, we'll make our own decision, but if you want to have some input, we'd welcome to hear it.
Jason, I might just mention on behalf of the applicant that part of the reason that some of the other facilities were not included with this package is there's a potential they may lease those to a tenant, and they want whoever's selected as the tenant to have an option to have a say in what those look like. And that's why they weren't all introduced as part of the first phase, because there's still a delay in who will be there and what they want it to look like.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
This is Commissioner Anderson. I get, but to that point, unless you're like putting in, say, like a McDonald's or something like that, I mean, you can control the architecture of the buildings and make them all cohesive, right? Even with something like that, you can still, have quite a say in that. And so okay, I guess I should speak for myself, not everybody, but it's not so much, I am not against the project, okay, from my perspective. But I mean, so I'm a builder, my wife's an architect, we do development, so I understand all this and I'm not opposed to this, but you can definitely make that car wash look better. Yes, you've used better materials than, asphalt shingles and so forth, but it can still look a lot better. There are lots of designs. We build RV garages all over town that have similar, profiles and so forth that look really good. They're blended in the community. There's a lot that you can do to really tie that into how the homes around, look. I mean, you can go to Sean's community. He's got a ton of RV garages that all have bays similar to that architecturally look a lot sharper than that. So it can definitely be designed better. But again, and like what you were talking about with some of the transportation stuff, and that's good, but that all needs to be included in the plan. Like all that stuff's got to be, remedied before we vote on the plan. As far as you said, this serves a need, and I agree. This definitely does serve a need. I'm not against that, and I'm not against the car wash, necessarily. I just think there's a better spot in that 3.5 acres that it could be, and it could be tied in cohesively with everything that is in there. That's all. I want to see a full plan that looks inviting, not just a car wash and some empty space of what might be.
Taylor, any insight? I think what the commission is saying is they don't want to vote on it without a full plan. Is that 3 weeks away, 12 weeks away? How much of a wait would it be? And my opinion to them will be is, yeah, you can ask the applicant to say there will be a structure here someday, and when it comes, it'll have this trim and this nature of design, and without saying it'll sell sandwiches or cell phones, right? And so I guess my question is because I think they're going to make a motion, but I don't know what it'll be, is how much time? If it's going to be a 15-week table, I'm going to give them the advice to just vote it on one of the other options, not a table. If it can be a few weeks, I think then a table makes sense, and we're not just holding you up without a good explanation as to why.
I'll let Bronson or Darren speak to that.
Okay.
So just Bronson Bundy, just talking to Derek, he's thinking that he could probably have some renderings of the site probably in 3 weeks.
And you'd probably prefer a table, is that accurate?
we're willing to table it if you know, for that 3 weeks, and we'll come back with some renderings of the site. We weren't planning on that, but I mean, our families were born and raised here. We have pretty deep roots in Washington City. So, I mean, we know the concerns, we've heard the concerns, so we want to address them, and we want to work with everybody, so.
One thing, if you come back and you have a 16 pump car wash or 16 pumps gas station, that's a no-go. I'm just telling you that straight up, because if you look around town and see how big a 16 pump gas station is, that's huge. And it's not a spot that we want in the middle of the fields. I'm sorry, what?
Our footprint.
That's what you have on
Well,
the,
that's what you have on your little, I mean, and that's what's, all I can comment on is what was thrown out to us.
Correct.
And I mean,
So there is a lot of interest for that site all the way around, and especially when it comes to C-stores. We've had a lot of people talking to us. We do show 16, and we appreciate the comment.
well,
So,
like I said, 16 is huge. And, you know, that's a no-go from the start, at least with me. And I'm only speaking for myself. It says 16 pumps.
16 pumps, it's actually 8 stations, and you can dual stack them or you can single stack them. There's different ways to do yeah, correct.
It's 8 pumps with 16.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, but when I went and,
It's not 16 pumps.
Right. So one.
no, I understand it's 8 bays, but when I look at how big 8 bays are, you know, the Terribles up on exit 13 is 16 pumps. You know, the Maverick at Mall Drive is only 20 pumps. And that thing's, you know, the last thing, like I said, that people are going to want is a gas station. Because you don't build gas stations in residential neighborhoods, period. They're built out on the periphery. So, anyway.
Commissioners, any other comments between ourselves? At some point, someone's going to need to make a motion.
And if the motion is to table, if you'll give a date for when you'll rehear it so that those in attendance can know when you'll reconsider.
At the same time, in addition to that, if there is a motion to table it, does it extend a public comment to the next meeting? Or they just can comment on what's new?
No,
Is
you
that
would,
correct?
especially if you're asking for some change, you absolutely want to have the public hearing open back up. But again, the comments can come with those changes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And again, I think, so we're clear, I mean, we're not talking about just the same layout with a few elevations. I mean, we're talking about a full cohesive plan with transportation details, lighting, you know, like the lighting that you talked about, you know, those need to be on the plan, showing what they are. You know, a different location for the car wash, some better elevations for the car wash, cohesiveness with all the restaurants and whatever else, the car wash or whatever else that's going in there, it's got to tie together. You know, the block walls, how they tie in with the residential behind it. I mean, all that stuff's got to be in there. So I would think 3 weeks is a little bit short for that. I mean, it's up to you guys, but I would,
Well,
me personally, I'd want a little longer than 3 weeks.
our next commission is on 15th, and then the next one after that is on January 5th. So that would give them the time right there.
The 5th is a month. I mean, well, it's 30, it's
Right.
5 weeks almost. But you have Christmas
holidays, yeah.
and New Year's in there.
So then you go the 19th of January.
So again, we're not trying to hold you guys up. I'm just, from my perspective, and I do this stuff, I would go for the 19th if it were me. Just saying.
About 6 weeks, 6 to 7 weeks. Sounds like the applicant's supportive of the 19th.
19th? Okay. One of the things that I don't think was mentioned, I really like Sean's idea of matching aesthetically as much as we can to his development. A lot of people in the crowd don't realize, well, I debated whether I was going to say this, but the development was there. Our planning commission shot it down twice, and it was still approved. So people are expressing frustration with the city and all that stuff. Hey, man, I'm right here with you sometimes. It happens, I'm waiting to see how good this whole area looks, because this is kind of, like I said, it's the first thing I joined. It was the first thing we saw. And to see it be built and all look cohesive and looks the same, I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be great. So with that being said, I think somebody up here knows how to make a motion at this point, and let's push this out a little bit. Let's table it. Oh, I shouldn't say that. That's not my recommendation because I can't make it, so, yeah.
This is Commissioner Anderson. I'll make a motion to table Z-21-26, request to approve the design and use of Heritage Place Commercial, currently PUD-C zoned property of approximately 3.46 acres located approximately northwest of Washington Fields and Sandia Road, 2000 South, and table it till January 19th. Do we say why we're tabling it, I'm assuming?
Yeah, just say because the commission wants to see a more complete
Commission wants to
plan.
see a complete plan of the entire PUD, including details of transportation, architectural cohesiveness, landscaping cohesiveness, different location of car wash.
This is Commissioner Bullock. I'll second.
All right, I have a motion by Commissioner Anderson. I have a second by Commissioner Bullock. Individual voting, Commissioner Shield.
Aye.
Musso.
Aye.
Anderson.
Aye.
Bullock.
Aye.
Hanson. I'm an aye as well.
Now, commissioners, let me just point out for the folks that are here, there won't be another notice sent out when something's tabled. So this is your notice for all the residents here. It'll be on the 19th that they'll then open that public hearing up. You'll be able to comment on all the new items that are put on. So again, won't be a paper, just put on your calendar or your phone to, the 19th, 5:30 again.
Thanks, Drew. Let's see, we voted, motion passed. Okay, so that's tabled to the 19th of January. At this time, commissioners, that's all that we have on our agenda this evening. Is there anything else that needs to be brought before the body tonight we discussed? Otherwise, I'll look for a motion to adjourn or end the meeting.
This is Shield. I make a motion to adjourn this meeting.
This is Bullock. I'll second.
I got a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right. Thank you, everybody, for attending this evening. And commissioners, thanks for your attendance and your participation. Staff, thank you very much.